Joe Rogan Podcast. Check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Hello, Megan.
Hi.
What's happening? Good to see you.
Good to see you also.
What's crack-a-lackin'?
Well,
Welcome to America.
Are you ready to get wasted?
Yeah, you and this you and this fucking vile beverage that you bring.
I brought, I was like, Joe is going to actually be mad when he
So
sees
explain
what
to
I
people
brought.
what this is.
Okay. I brought Raicilla. Joe Rogan, this man right here, he talks about Raicilla.
I talk about it. You gave it to me. And
all the time.
I serve
you
it to
never
people.
stop bitching about Raicilla on the
Well, I give it to people, and every time I give it to people, they're like, Jesus. Ooh.
I don't know.
It's one of the rare alcohols that we've had in studio that we haven't burned through.
Yeah, and I noticed you didn't give it to Snoop. The
No.
squandered opportunity. I was like, you're like, yeah, you don't want that. And I was like,
Snoop wants that.
maybe he does.
I can't take a chance with Snoop.
Okay, so Raicilla is moonshine from the state of Jalisco, which is where I live in Mexico. And it's similar to mezcal, so it comes from the agave plant. And that is the end of my explanation because after that, I am confused. So,
I don't know why you like it.
I don't know why either. Like, I'm not like, I don't love most booze. Like,
Really?
I love drinking. But, like, I love whiskey, I love scotch, I love Raicilla.
So you like strong stuff.
I don't like tequila. I don't like
Okay.
vodka.
Yeah.
I don't like rum.
Yeah, you're a strong drinker. Well, obviously, if you like Raicilla, you're a strong drinker. You like stuff you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, what I can't explain it. Like I can't explain why I don't like tequila, but I like
You
Raicilla,
don't
which
have to
everybody else
explain it.
hates. Okay, thank
You
you.
don't gotta explain shit.
You're like, Megan, just do
you live your life.
You do
like
you,
what
girl.
you like. Yeah, exactly.
So okay, so what I brought, this is actual moonshine. It didn't come in this bottle. My friend put it in this bottle for me, but she actually bought it from on the top of a mountain in Yalapa from a
tested it
guy.
yet?
I've tried it.
So it's okay?
No,
No?
it's not gonna kill you. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, does it kill you?
no,
Doesn't
it's
kill
good.
you?
I mean,
Okay.
they've been making this stuff for centuries.
So they
Like,
put in that bottle. Did you put
They
the
sell
label
it out
on?
of 2-liter Coke bottles.
I feel like that's the one we
This
should
is
try.
what this came out of a 2-liter like Coke
Okay.
bottle.
We
Yeah,
should
we have
definitely
to try it.
that one. That's the
I
one we
wanna
gotta
look
try.
at. I want to look at your face.
Okay.
Are we putting it in mugs?
Yeah, why
Okay.
not? I mean, fuck it. This is not formal.
No,
Just
we're
just
not
put it in these coffee
professionals
mugs
here.
because I'm probably gonna pour coffee in it later and just go. Ugh.
Dude, you're gonna hate this. I promise. And then after, I'm gonna give you some that you might actually like. And if you don't like it, then I give up on you forever.
Oh no. I'm a whiskey
Then
guy.
we're not
I
friends
like whiskey.
anymore.
I like.
I
whiskey.
love whiskey too.
Buffalo Trace.
Always.
That's my kind of shit.
Okay.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Always
Nice
good
to see you again.
Very good to see you.
Okay.
Boy, dude.
I just got Raicilla all over my face. And that's what happens when you drink out
That
of mugs. You
tastes like it came from a fucking Coke bottle.
Do you like it at all? Like, I don't know. I kind of like it. Well,
I obviously.
You're like, I mean, let me tell you. Like,
Well, Megan, you're a strong cup of coffee as a human, you know, and it makes sense that you would like a strong beverage.
okay,
I
thank
get it.
you.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense. I appreciate that.
It makes sense. Yeah. You know, it fits you.
This is like, it's either 47 or 48 proof. And the way that they test the proof
They ain't testing shit.
is by, she showed me a video. My friend showed me a video. And the guy who was making it put it in this little thing and then blew bubbles with a straw. And then he looks at the bubbles, like he looks at the size of the bubbles and sees like how fast they pop. And that's how you know.
Oh, super
That-
accurate. Is he snake charm as well? Like, what the fuck?
This one I bought from the bar across the street from my house because I really loved. I was like, this is so good,
Yeah.
and I couldn't find it anywhere. Like I couldn't buy it anywhere. So I
So
just
is that
bought
a
it off of
popular
them.
beverage with Mexicans, or is it a popular beverage with the expats?
More like Mexicans. Like for
This
example,
is beautiful.
yeah, this one is
I
beautiful.
love the little.
This one actually to me tastes more like a mezcal. Do you like mezcal?
Yeah, I do.
Like this one is smokier. So So you might like this one, but I
bottles.
also like the bottle a lot.
I like how
too.
the bottle comes with that little necklace.
Yeah. You
Pretty
can
cool.
wear that if you want.
No, it's not my style. But it is Pride Month. It would fit for Pride Month.
Perfect.
There you
Yeah.
go.
You can represent your LGBTQ allies or whatever.
Leprechauns.
Or leprechauns, yeah. Whatever. But yeah, like, I mean, Mexicans, this kind of stuff, they only sell to locals. Like, they don't sell this in stores. They sell it to the locals who live in that
Right.
area. So yeah, Mexicans like it. I mean, some Mexicans. Most people that I know think I'm a crazy person also. Like, in Mexico, they're like, you're the only person who buys this, Megan. Like, you burn through all of our raicilla and nobody else buys raicilla.
Is that mostly what you drink down there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I drink red wine with dinner or
Yeah,
at
me too.
home, but if I go out, I drink raicilla.
Can you get that? Have you ever tried to get a bar in the States? Like, have you ever gone to Austin and asked for raicilla?
No, I don't think they would know what that is.
Maybe.
Maybe I'll try.
Try it tonight. Give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to not get too wasted tonight because I have an event tomorrow.
Oh, what's your event?
It's called Women Leaving the Left.
Wow.
It's a panel of women, females, adult human females. And it's at the Austin Central Library on West Cesar Chavez. Did I say that right? Yeah, 710. And it's basically like I've been writing a lot lately about sorry, just like kind of launch into my spiel or whatever. I've been writing a lot lately about like my political transformation, I suppose you could call it. I mean, I was super left-wing for my whole life. Like, from when I was a kid, I grew up in like a Marxist household.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like a socialist and a feminist my whole life until maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I started feeling like I wasn't super into the labels anymore, and definitely started feeling, becoming very critical of the left, and not just the way the left had treated me, which has been abhorrent, but ideologically, I think that there's problems. It's not, it's
Like, what
not
specifically bothers you?
Well, I mean, I guess, so part of the thing that happened was that I realized that attaching yourself to any movement and any ideology limits critical thought and independent thought.
Yes.
You get trapped into this box, and the people that you're allied with in these movements also trap you into that box.
Right.
And I am a writer, and that's, I'm a thinker, like, I want to learn, I want to know, and I want the freedom to change my mind about things. I want the freedom to explore new ideas, and I want the freedom to talk to, I also do podcasts, and I want to be able to, part of the reason I do it is because it's interesting. Like, it's a great way to learn. I'm sure you know that, right? Like,
Yeah, sure.
I've learned so much just from the opportunity to talk to so many different kinds of people and ask them questions about things that I don't know about.
It's an amazing resource.
It's amazing.
Running a podcast and being able to have conversations with people, it's changed who I am. I mean, if you go back 12 years ago to when I started the podcast, what I know and the way I talk and the way I think about things, it's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that played like a large role in my changing my mind about all sorts of things.
Right.
Because you're exposed to new ideas and different perspectives and people who come from different backgrounds. And I mean, I just feel like so many people on the left and so many people in feminism are siloed. And that is probably true about the right to a certain extent. It's just that I'm much less familiar with the right because I've never been involved with the right before.
Right.
But I feel like on the left and in feminism, they're around people who only agree with them, who only see things their way, and they refuse to speak to anybody
Yes.
who doesn't see things their way, which, exacerbates the problem. And I didn't want that. I felt intellectually bored also. Like, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm just repeating myself now. So I'm not even thinking critically about what I'm saying. I already know the analysis. I already know the mantra. I know what my response is supposed to be. I know what words I'm supposed to plug in.
Right.
You know, patriarchy, capitalism,
Yeah.
intersectionality. Although I never got fully into that nonsense. But, you know, and I really, like, I really have been treated very badly by the left and by feminists. And
When you say that, though, don't you think it's just specific people that are attached to an ideology? It's not like people that are left-wing people have treated you badly. It's a very specific kind of people that decide that you are venturing away from the ideological boundaries.
it's partly that, but I think that is connected to left-wing politics and left-wing ideology. At least now. Maybe that wasn't true in the 70s.
But left-wing thoughts, right? This is the thing that I have a problem with all this stuff. It's like I'm very open-minded and very liberal when it comes to gay rights, women's rights, civil rights, all, you know, even things that I'm still on the fence about now, like universal basic income. Boy, I was all in until the pandemic, and then watching the way people behaved when they got a hold of a lot of unemployment and the money from the government, the COVID relief money, and they didn't want to work anymore. Mm-hmm. I was like, ooh, you know, I mean, I know it's not a lot of people, you know, it's not like all the people react in this exact same way, but I have friends that own businesses and they couldn't get people to work for them. Like I have a friend who owns a restaurant and he couldn't get a bartender. Like the bartender would only work for $20 an hour, or excuse me, for 20 hours a week so that he could get unemployment. And he was like, what the fuck, man? Like,
yeah, I mean, but I think that's partly, yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
but I think that's partly like baked into left-wing ideology nowadays because there's this like opposition to, you know, independence. There's an opposition to trying to better yourself as an individual person. There's an opposition to individualism because you're supposed to blame the system.
yeah.
You're supposed to blame capitalism, racism, patriarchy, you know, and then all the myriad of phobias, transphobia, fat phobia. And so the solution is not to change you. It's not your fault. It's their fault because they're phobic or the system's trying to keep you down. So I think that, like, not wanting to work anymore is like, well, like, why should I? I don't have to. Like, they don't realize that it's good for your mental health to work. Like, you're not supposed, it's not good for your mental health to sit around in your apartment on Netflix or on Zoom or on social media or on dating apps or looking at porn all day.
Well, the thing is, it's like, it's not good to not be self-sustaining, is my thought. I think there's an issue. I think for many people, you get unemployment and you use that unemployment to try to find another job and to sustain yourself, and it's great. But for some people, there is a general human tendency to, when you're offered a break, to take that break. You know, when you're offered money to do nothing, and you'll do nothing. Mm-hmm. I think my thoughts about universal basic income were, and this is what I liked about it. I liked the idea of giving a person an opportunity where, like, we pay for so many things. We just sent $40 billion to Ukraine, right? Why can't we figure out a way to give people enough money to sustain themselves so that they could actually pursue their interests and do what they want to do? And I think that would make for a stronger world, a stronger economy, a stronger community of people, and happier, healthier people. That was my thought. But then when I saw how people reacted with the government money from COVID relief and from unemployment, I was thinking, man, I don't know. There's a lot of people that aren't going to react the right way. And what they're going to do is they're going to take an easy way out and they're going to lay around. And that sucks. Like, if you give people an opportunity to be lazy, unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be lazy. And the problem is, if you oppose that relief, then people will say you're cruel and, you know, you're not looking out for the working people. And it's like, that's not, first of all, that I hate those fucking categories, like working people. God damn it, everybody's working. Shut the fuck up. It's not a working people issue. We're all working. Everyone's doing something, right? Or you're not. And if you're not, that is the problem. The problem is when people don't want to do anything, because that is a general instinct that people have towards laziness. And the problem, I think, with whether it's universal basic income or any other social safety nets, which I very much support for the most part, is that some people, it's not everybody, but some people have a tendency to just be fucking lazy.
Yes. And again, this is attached to, I think, leftist ideology, because I think what I've realized of late is that leftist ideology is about idealism. Like, it's like, we want to create this world and this is the way the world should be. But in reality, that world doesn't exist and people don't work like that.
Right.
Like, what they want. And I'm saying this as somebody who believed these things. Like, people have, like, people get really mad at me, but people are mad at me all the time. Nothing new. But, you know, people, when I start criticizing the left, people get angry at me. First of all, because people, I think, like to categorize people and box them in. And when they start moving outside of the box, they get angry and confused and frustrated. And so they'll just want to write you off or hate you or call me right wing or whatever. But, you know, I was a leftist and I thought like these people and I thought that it was right. And the reason that I was a leftist is because I care about people. It's not because I'm an evil communist. Like, the right is very bad at writing people off too. It's like, all these communists. It's like, these people don't even really know what communism is. I'm sure they've never read Marx for the most part. But, you know, I didn't want people to be poor. I didn't want people to not have housing and food and access to healthcare and education. I wanted things to be more equal and just. That's why I was a leftist. But the solution was an idea. You know, like, if we create this kind of society, then we'll all live in happy communities and everybody will work and nobody will slack off and, like, there'll be no exploitation and, like, rape will disappear and oppression will disappear. And that's not what happens in the real world. That's not what's happened in places that have implemented communist regimes.
No.
So, you know, I don't think that it's good to base a movement on idealism and ideas that are not rooted in material reality.
Do you think, I mean, the argument is always that socialism has never been implemented correctly. This sort of utopian idea of what a real, genuine, compassionate socialist community could look like, that's never really been done correctly. But do you think it's a human nature issue? Do you think it's like the idea of socialism is great on a surface level if you're thinking about people that work hard and that want everyone else to do well and they want to all contribute? Like, I think you could have a socialist community of very driven, disciplined people where they share things. Like, we have some socialist things, right? Like the fire department is an excellent example of socialism, because we pay in to this thing that supports these people who put out fires, and nobody complains about it. It's a normal thing. It's something that we contribute to. It's like a fund, and that fund puts out fires, and it puts out fires, you know, based on your tax dollars that you put into it. And you don't want a society where if you don't have money, they don't put the fire out, right? But some people would argue that that's where it ends. Like, you shouldn't have that and extend that to education. You shouldn't have that and extend that to healthcare. I think that's where socialism could work. I think, and I don't mean socialism like across the board. I mean socialist ideas. I think the idea of a universal healthcare system where everyone is covered and you never have to worry about anything like bankrupting you because you broke a leg or you hurt your back, like that you're taken care of, and that we all contribute to that. And again, if we can give $40 billion to Ukraine, why the fuck can't we do that? And we can do that. That's totally possible. The education system, the idea that you have to be in debt. I was reading a story the other day about this woman who's $250,000 in debt from student loans, and she took out $150,000. So over the course of the interest that's accumulated, she's got $100,000 more in interest. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Dude.
And you can't get rid of that.
It's fucked. Tell me about it. Like, I mean, I support public health care still. Like, I do think that it is imperative that people have access to health care. And I think the healthcare system in America is horrible because I think the aspect of it that's horrible is that people can go into insane amounts of debt because they got sick or hurt. Like,
Yes.
that's not okay to me. It's not okay. And the same, it's student loan debt. You're right. Like, you get an amount of debt that you can't afford to pay off with the job that you've gotten from going to university. And then they're charging you all this interest, so it makes it doubly impossible to pay it off, and it's like a trap. I mean,
And you can't get out of it.
no,
Like, you can't
declare
even go-
bankruptcy
yeah,
on
which is
it
crazy.
anymore. You used to be able to.
Yeah, you could sell some horrible medication that kills people, get sued for it, lose all your money, go bankrupt, and you're good. It'll absolve you of your debts. But that's one of the rare forms of debt that you cannot escape, which
Yeah.
is crazy because you're giving it to 18-year-olds. You have an 18-year-old doesn't have a fully
You're like, sure,
formed
yeah,
brain.
I want the money. But also, like, I couldn't afford to go to school full time. I could not. I was like, for my whole life until I was able to, make a living off of what I'm doing now, which took a lot of work and me working for free for many, many years. I had like 3 jobs all through university. Like, I was always working full time. And you're trying to complete a degree, and they make that impossible too. You can't complete a degree part-time. At least I couldn't in Canada because I couldn't take classes I couldn't finish a degree only by taking night classes. It's impossible. So eventually you have to quit your job and you have to go into debt. Like, people who are critical of students who rack up a ton of student loan debt and can't pay it off, don't seem to understand. They're like, why don't you get a summer job and save money over the summer? And I was like, I don't live at my parents' house. Like, when I was 18, my parents moved to the States. I have to pay rent. Like, my parents aren't paying for my life for me. I don't have any money to save. Sometimes I don't have enough money to get on the bus and I have to walk to work. This is when I was 19, 20. Like, I was broke most of my life. Like, no, I wasn't poor. Like, I don't want to be like, woe is me. Like, I always had a house and, something to fall back on. Like, I was never going to be homeless. It wasn't like I couldn't eat. But there was no saving money. Like, I did not have thousands of dollars to pay tuition. I had to take out student loan debt. I had no choice.
Right. Do you think that there's a certain amount of struggle like that is not just good for you, but necessary in order to steel your discipline and create a person who can overcome adversity? Like, if everything is handed to you, this is the argument that the right will use, right? That if you make things too easy, if you give people free education, if you give people free healthcare, that they're going to become soft, and we need a resilient, tough country that works hard. And the way you get people to work hard is you force them to, because that's the only way that people are going to do it.
I think it's true in some ways. I mean, I think that struggle is imperative and important. I think that you need pain to experience and understand pleasure. I think if there's just everything is easy for you, I think you get really depressed. Like, you need to work hard, and you have to know what it means to suffer and feel pain and to be bad at things and to get better at things.
Yeah.
I know I don't need to tell you this, but I mean, what I experienced was useful to me in the long term, I think, because I understand, I understand real life. Mm-hmm. I understand why people go into debt. I understand how hard it is for people who are poor and working class to get out of that. What a lot of people on the right don't understand is that class still is a real thing in North America. It's not as overt or as visible or as extreme as it is in third world countries. But it's still real. I mean, if you are born poor and working class, it's not that it's impossible to get out of it. You can, and lots of people do, and that's incredible. But you're challenged in so many different ways, mentally and in terms of systemic barriers, being able to get a degree, for example, and having the kind of credit that you need to take out loans to, buy property, get a house, so on and so forth. But there's a mental barrier that I experienced because I thought, I'm working class. I'm always going to be working class. I don't understand money. I don't understand capitalism. I think this is partly to do with my politics also, I'll say that. Like, I don't know how to make money. I don't know how to save money. I don't have like business sense. And I limited myself in that way. Because I just thought, I was like, I'm never going to be able to own property. Like, I'm never going to be able to afford to buy a house. So whatever. Like, so I'm just going to work at, making $50,000 a year and pay my rent. And that's the end of that. Like, and I think that people who come from money see money as an option. It's accessible to them. So I think that they might work harder to make more money and to, invest and to save and to...
Well, they also have examples of people who've done it, so they can see it. They could see it happening. Mm-hmm. And they see a path, too. If you have an uncle that started a business and became successful, you go, oh, I see how to do it.
I mean, and I knew when I was a kid, I knew when I was a teenager, and this is still true now, that a lot of people who own houses and properties, that's because they had family money.
Yeah.
Their parents put their down payment down for them. So if you don't have that, I don't have that. So I was like, how am I, like, what, I'm going to save up $30,000, like, for a down payment?
Yeah, the term working class, one of the things that bugs me about it is it's like, it's one of those, like, things that gets used often as a cheap political ploy. Like, we're here for the working class.
Yeah.
And then people, you need to support the working class. There's this... That's what drives me nuts about it, because it's this weird sort of categorization of people, because it does classify people in almost an inescapable little tomb. You're the working class. You're part of the working class. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, are you talking about people that are struggling to pay their bills? Yeah, well, that's the majority of people. That's the majority of people. And oftentimes, what we consider not the working class, people are such knuckleheads that if they make $400,000 a year, they spend $399. And they become the working class. They have a lot of other stuff that they have to pay for.
You just called me a knucklehead.
Is that you?
I mean, I didn't make that much money, but I'm like, oh shit, there's money in my bank account.
Yeah.
Like,
but you know what I'm saying? It's like the thing about the idea of the working class is that people are struggling. And I totally get that. I totally understand that, and I do think that we need to protect those people. That's why I'm in favor of universal basic health care. Of universal health care, and that's why I'm in favor of social safety nets. That's why I'm in favor of, community programs and making things more accessible to people. And definitely I'm in favor of at least reducing the burden of the cost of education in a massive way. Maybe lift the barrier to entry to education, make it harder to get in terms of like the output that you have to put forward. Make it difficult to get in, but make it so that when you get in, once you're in there, there's going to be community colleges that you can go to. There's going to be places you can go to if you're not going to be able to make it to a university. But the idea that you should be $150,000 in debt and that it's $200,000 after years and years of interest accumulating is crazy. And you can't get out of it, that's crazy. That's a sick industry. Mm-hmm. It's a sick industry, and it captures so many fucking people. It really does.
It's crippling. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I support all of those things, too.
So it makes you a lefty. So you're a lefty. See what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I think
what is the left?
It's part of this, again, is that I don't want to categorize myself as anything.
Right.
Because then you get stuck in these boxes, and it's like, well, you're a leftist, so you have to support Black Lives Matter.
Right.
You're a leftist, so you have to believe women. You're a leftist, so you have to, want to open the borders. You want to abolish the police.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. That's what I don't want. And I don't want to be trapped in any category or ideology. I support practical ways to help people. So if these policies work to help people, then I support them. If there's different policies that are categorized as right wing that help people, that are better, that are more effective, then I'll support those policies. That's what I mean. And also, what the left has become is totally different than what the left used to be. I don't believe that the left supports the working class or cares about the working class. I think that the left is caught up in, I think that the left consists of middle and upper class people who don't know any poor people, who don't know any marginalized people, who don't know working class people, who don't know, they're advocating for people as these groups and categories that exist in their head. And I say this because I'm from Vancouver. I lived in Vancouver my entire life, and Vancouver is a very left-wing place. All of my friends were left-wing. I didn't have a single right-wing friend. I didn't know any right-wing people. I barely even knew like any religious people. I knew a whole bunch of people who were like me.
Do you have right-wing friends now?
Yeah, I think so. Like I've met basically since I was kicked off Twitter. That was like a blessing in disguise in some ways.
For people who don't know you, we should just like for people
My
who didn't
claim to
listen to the
fame.
other episode. I met Meghan because I was outraged, and I brought up your case in the conversation with Jack Dorsey. I brought it up multiple times in the podcast because you were kicked off Twitter for life for saying a man can never be a woman, which is madness.
Yeah,
it's cool. Like
men aren't women.
Yeah.
Is what I said.
Yeah.
Apparently, men are allowed to say that. Matt Walsh is allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say that.
what do you mean?
Like like after I got kicked off of Twitter, I saw right-wing men on Twitter saying the same things that I've said. Then they weren't kicked off of Twitter, and I
Really?
think that's because
Were you in a conversation with a trans person when you said that?
not that I'm aware of. I don't know who was in the conversation. It was part of a thread, and it wasn't like I was saying to somebody, "You're not a woman."
Mm-hmm.
It was in response to a tweet that was sort of confusing and me saying, but men aren't women though.
What was do you remember what the...
I don't remember what the context is, to be honest.
So you
But
were...
it was that, 'cause there was like 3 tweets, but also like I believe that Twitter was going after me specifically because I was speaking critically about gender identity ideology, and because I was asking these kinds of questions that I don't think that it was specifically because of these tweets. I think they took those tweets as an excuse, and like I
Right.
think they were trying to get rid of me, and then they're like, okay, that's hateful.
And when
That's
you say
hateful.
they, it's probably just some moderator. It's probably someone who has a subjective opinion about what you say and whether or not you should say it. And that's a problem generally that a lot of people have with the censorship that's on social media, Twitter in particular. You know, one of the weird things that's happening now with Elon Musk buying Twitter or attempting to buy Twitter, they've done something different. And one of the things they've done different is I gained, now it's 900,000 followers in the month or so.
What?
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people really like you, so
Thank-
maybe
sweet.
900,000 more people were like, I
think-
decided I love Joe
I think I was in a
Rogan.
box. I think I was
Well,
restricted
Meghan Kelly
in some
said
way.
the same thing. Did you hear her say that?
She said she gained a lot.
She gained a ton, like 100,000, or I don't
Yeah.
remember the number, but
Something's
a
going
lot.
on.
Like it was really noticeable, and so she was like, she's like, I'm pretty sure Twitter was,
Shadow ban.
messing
Yeah.
around with my account.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's something was going on. I mean, I'm just guessing. The other option could be their bots, that I've gained 900,000 bots. But it's like every time I look, it's like another 100,000. It's crazy. It grows faster than anything. And Instagram is the opposite. Instagram seems to have hit the brakes on me. Like somewhere around 6 months ago, something happened. And it seems like it's slowed down growth a lot. I don't check it too much, so I might be wrong. I might be, maybe it's something they've done with their algorithm where they prefer videos over photographs now, which I think they do.
They're trying to go more video, I believe. I read that.
That's where the viral effect really takes place. And I see with my kids with TikTok. I have one daughter who's a heavy TikToker.
Oh yeah.
She's always doing dances
Never
with her
been on
friends.
TikTok. I don't really understand how it
You're
works.
not 14.
That's true.
But little girls, they get together and they do dances, and they like to memorize dances and sync it to music, and then they're watching all these other people TikToking and doing and it's like TikTok just hits you with video after video after video, and they just get you hooked. You open that app up and it's like you're already like, movement, things are happening, and this is what they're trying to do, I believe, with Instagram.
I think so too, and I've read that. I don't get it because I hate watching videos on Instagram and I hate watching videos on my phone in general. Like if I'm gonna, because I'm an old person, I guess. Like I'm like, if I want to watch a video, I want to look at a big screen. Like I'll watch stuff on my laptop, but I don't like reading stuff. I don't like using my phone. I don't even like texting on my phone, to be honest. Like I text on my laptop. But I mean, I sort of think that Instagram messes with me a little bit too. They refuse to verify my account. I've tried like 5 times.
How many followers do you have?
14,000. No, sorry. Is that right?
What's the number that you think? You could check.
Who cares?
You could
I don't
check.
want to pretend like I like don't give a shit because I do give a shit, but not that big of a shit.
Is there a number that you have to reach before they'll verify you?
Oh, I went up to 14.3K today.
Wow.
From 2.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I just felt like my posts were getting less traction all of a sudden, and they were no different than what I'd been posting before.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Like, that could just be coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
But I know some people have definitely been fucked with. And, you know, wasn't there a football player who complained a lot about it, Jamie, and then eventually he got let out of Instagram jail?
Why does he need he's a football player. Like, what does he need an Instagram account for? I need an Instagram account because it's how I make a living.
Well, he does too. That's how you get sponsors. When you're a football player, you have to get sponsorships.
If you have lots of followers.
Yeah,
okay,
the more
fine. I'm sorry, football player. Like sports.
Well, you think about it. I mean, if you have a large following, like a Tom Brady, I mean, God, how many sponsors does he have?
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, that's an amazing way to make an
like,
income.
You don't need an Instagram account to throw a ball.
You need it for Gatorade and Nike and
okay.
all the car sponsors and all kinds of different things. When those guys have a large following, that's very valuable, which is really an interesting thing. It's like, what is social media for? I mean, are you using it for as a business, or are you using it to be social? Are you just having fun and, you know, expressing yourself, or are you using it to maximize your brand, air quotes?
I mean, I don't brand. I swear to God I don't. I'm obviously a very authentic person.
I believe you.
I have to use social media for work because I work for myself. So it's the only way I can get what I produce out into the world. And that's how I make an income almost solely through individual donations. Like, so people who send me donations through my website, or they sign up to my Patreon, or they pay for a subscription on Substack, which I haven't put anything behind a paywall, so people can just choose to pay or not. So I just appreciate it if people pay, because that's how I make an income. But like, there's no institution. There's
It's
no
kind of pure. It's very pure in a way.
But I would not really, I don't think I would have a public Instagram account if I hadn't been, I didn't start a public Instagram account until I was kicked off of Twitter.
Right.
Like, I have to do that. I don't love spending a bunch of time on social media.
Did you enjoy Twitter though when you were on it? Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know why everybody complains about Twitter all the time, because I really like Twitter.
Have you tried to get back on? Because I know some people that were banned before, they try to get back on. They got back on.
I appealed twice since.
Recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since Elon Musk announced that he was going to buy Twitter, we'll see if that actually goes through or not.
They just gave in to one of his demands.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they just released. See if you can find what the article says, but essentially, he said unless they give him access to data, so he can find out how many of his accounts are fake.
Right.
Because his take on it was like, if you were going to buy something and you were buying it under the assumption that here it goes. Twitter set to turn bot data over to Musk. All right, so this says that Twitter's board is reportedly set to pull an about-face offering Elon Musk internal data on hundreds of millions of tweets as advised for the billionaire to complete his acquisition of the social media company. Twitter set to turn over information to Musk, capturing more than 500 million tweets. The device the post came from, and other information about the account holders. The Washington Post reported Wednesday, citing an unnamed person familiar with the matter. Such a move would help respond to Musk's repeated demands for more information about the composition of Twitter's user base and the extent of its problem with bots. Musk has challenged Twitter's claims that just 5% of its accounts are bots, calling the way the company calculates fake accounts very suspicious in a May tweet. So, I'm really interested to see how this plays out, because he is what he would describe as a free speech absolutist, and I think that is something that people are reluctant to agree is a good thing because they're worried about the negative aspects of free speech. They're worried about assholes and and trolls and all that stuff.
Toughen up, man. Toughen up. And I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I was calling myself a free speech absolutist for a while, and then I interviewed Michael Solana, who's with the Founders Fund, and he organized Hereticon, which was a conference that I went to in Miami in January that was like amazing. It was basically like a wrong think conference.
Was it good?
It was amazing.
Yeah?
It was awesome.
Do you smoke cigars?
No.
You want one?
No.
Okay.
I'll choke. I want more
All right.
raicilla though.
Okay.
I smoked cigarettes from the time I was 13 until 21.
You got your raicillas right next to you.
Well, I want to open a different one because I want you to try this one. Will you try
Jesus.
some more or no?
It's nasty.
Dude, this one is good. I swear to God. Okay, listen. If you don't like this one, well, I already said I'd give up on you if you don't like this one. Look at how beautiful the label is in any case. It's a nice bottle.
Yeah,
in the
real
label.
pretty poison.
Okay, well, I'm going to have more.
Go ahead.
I love the smell of cigars, and I've always wished that I could, but I don't know how to not inhale, so I choke. Like, because I treat it like a cigarette.
You smoke cigarettes?
Well, I quit when I was 21, so
Oh,
and
so
I
you
think
treat-
and I hate cigarettes now, but I quit when I was 21, which was good timing because that was like around the same time when all the bars started not letting you smoke inside. I used to like go to the bar and drink beer and smoke cigarettes.
The good old
the
days.
bar.
I used to like comedy
Can
clubs
you
to be smoking.
imagine? Ew.
Now? Yeah. it's
In
nasty.
Mexico, like in Sayulita, where I live, you can smoke anywhere you want. And I take it because I love Sayulita and I love freedom and I love Mexico and I love that there's no rules. But when I leave the bar and I wake up the next day coughing, my hair stinks, my
Yeah.
clothes stink.
Yeah.
Like
You're probably catching a buzz, though. Even though you're
probably
coughing.
so many people
Yeah.
smoke there. It's crazy. And coming from somewhere like Vancouver, that's like a super healthy place, so nobody see it smells so good. Like I really like it, but I can't do it.
I get it.
And you're not gonna peer pressure me into
I'm not even
this.
trying.
No, I'm joking.
Notice I haven't tried.
That was a joke.
I know.
Aren't you a comedian?
Yeah, I went along with it. Didn't you see?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
went along with your joke.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
They used to be able to smoke in Dallas, like up until like fairly recently, because I remember the Addison Improv, which is a club I love. It's a suburb of Dallas. They had smoking shows, and I want to say it was in the 2000s. I don't know when they stopped doing it.
Interesting. Like, okay, well, actually, no, because sorry, I should speak into the microphone. I know about this. I know
That's
how
the
mics
raicilla.
work. Yeah. Well, I've had like the last podcast that I did with you, I saw online a ton of people being like, Meghan got drunk. And I'm like, dude, I had 2 drinks. Do you know how many do you know how much raicilla I drink? Like if I go out to like party, like I'm going out, I drink like, I don't know, like 11 or 12 shots of raicilla. Like 2 drinks.
Did you drink 11 or 12
Dude,
shots
I can drink
of raicilla?
so much raicilla. It's crazy. I don't even know how. This is like once a week. This is not. I mean, maybe that sounds like I'm like it's not every day. Like
12 shots.
and I go through it really like I go through it real fast. Sometimes I have to switch to whiskey so that I slow down because I can't drink whiskey
hilarious.
as fast as I can drink raicilla. But
That doesn't make any sense either.
no,
You're
it
an
doesn't make
odd
none
lady.
of it makes sense to me. But so I think in Vancouver, so when I was 21, that would have been like 2001, and that was around the same time. I think I'm really bad at math. Like they were cutting out smoking in bars probably around 99, 2000, around that time.
Right.
And before that, there were still restaurants and cafes with smoking sections, which was no different from the other section. And you could go to bars and clubs and smoke. I would always
remember
come
those
home
in
with like
restaurants.
cigarette burns on my fingers and holes in my mesh tank tops. And
I remember that in restaurants, cigarette sections, smoking sections of restaurants.
it's just not that chair, but that chair.
Yeah, and not ventilation that's set up to like really filter things out very well
No.
either. Like Vegas is set up pretty well. Vegas, you can still smoke indoors, can't you?
This is real smooth.
Yeah? James
Joe.
says yes.
I really think you should try it
Fuck out
whenever
here
you're
with your
ready.
poison. This is real smooth. She says. She's such a crackhead.
Please believe me. It is. Like this, I was like, yeah.
Oh my God, Megan, it's not smooth. It's nasty.
This one is not smooth. That one is.
Well, you fucked up. Should have started me off with a good one.
There's still time. We'll get there.
I'm a proponent of you having the ability to do whatever you want. The problem is like the people that work there. If you're smoking and like that, there's so many cases of people that are waiters or waitresses in a bar and they get cancer from lungs and they don't smoke.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having to work in those bars and clubs or work on airplanes when everybody's smoking on the airplane.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing. You're in a fucking I'm
tube
in the
not
sky.
old enough for that,
And that
but
was
that's
like,
strange.
What year did that stop? I want to say that stopped in the 90s, right?
Really? I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of when I was first on a plane. I don't know.
I think Dice Clay used to have a bit
Maybe
about
earlier than that. Probably. So they were still doing it in the 80s, you think?
It had to be late 80s because I think Dice had a bit about it in like 89 or 90. You're in a fucking tube.
Yeah.
He had this whole bit about like a section. He's like, we're breathing the same fucking air.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like it. And I think that it is unfair to impose that on employees who like have to be there.
Yeah, that's the problem. The problem is the people that work. It's a workplace environment safety issue. But if you have a social club that doesn't have employees, like there's places that set up places as social clubs so that they can get around certain rules.
Okay, because it's like a private space,
right. Like cigar bars. Cigar bars have that kind of setup.
Or like hookah lounges. Is that similar? I've never.
Interesting.
I've never tried a
hookah.
I'm like,
it's good.
Hookah?
It's good.
What's the point? I don't get it.
You get a head rush. Wild tobacco head rush.
Like a head rush, like nausea. Woo. That's what, if I try to smoke a cigarette now, because every once in a while, in general, I find it gross, but every once in a while I'll be like, there'll be a cigarette smell that appeals to me for some reason. It probably smells like my Du Maurier ultralight king size that I used to smoke when I was 17. And I'm like, I want to try a cigarette. And then I'm like, oh, that was fucking disgusting. And
really?
Now my mouth tastes like an ashtray. And it makes me feel ill. Like, I was lucky about quitting smoking because when I started smoking less, the cigarette started making me feel sick. So if I would have a cigarette, I would feel sick. Like, it was not hard. I wasn't like, oh, Lord, I love smoking cigarettes so much. I think I just smoked cigarettes because I was like a teenager and I was nervous
cool.
and wanted to fit in. Yeah.
Right, yeah. It's interesting that you could down 11 shots of Raicilla and that doesn't make you feel ill. And a cigarette will make you feel ill.
I sip the shots. I'm not like doing...
Yeah, but you're fucking 11 of them. They have to get down eventually.
I'm a very...
You're robust.
Strong... I come from robust Irish stock. Like,
that's what it is. It's the Irish stock.
Totally.
Yeah, it has to be.
I mean, it's a really great skill. I appreciate it. I would be so sad if I had like 2 shots of Raicilla and was like, woo, gotta go to bed.
Well, it's weird how it is genetic and that some people of certain ancestry, they don't have a historical, there's not like a lot of history of their ancestors drinking alcohol, and they struggle with it. Whereas Irish people generally, but there are a lot of Irish alcoholics, but they can put it down better for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to know how to drink. Like I don't do shots. Like I wouldn't go to the bar and do a tequila shot because I don't want to get wasted and black out. Like I want to keep going until 5 a.m. So you gotta.
What is the appeal of drinking to you? Like what is that thing?
This is an interesting question, and I've thought about this a lot. And I'm not sure. I have. I think about it all the time, because I don't love drugs.
Do you like pot?
No.
Not at all?
Nope. I don't like it. I tried for many years to smoke weed, and it's not for me. It makes me. I don't like the feeling of being high. I'm sorry. I know that's a strange thing.
We've had this
to
conversation
say.
3 times today. You don't have to like what I like.
Like, this is the kind of podcast where you come on and you agree with everything I say or you're out and you're never coming back.
What is it about? Is it the paranoia?
I feel paranoid. I can't socialize. Like, I get super self-conscious. So if I smoke weed, I have to like stay home and lie on the couch and watch TV and eat candy. And that's not what I want to do in my life. Like, I want to be out and socializing, or I want to be productive. I want to be able to work. And I can't do any of those things. And I don't like the not knowing when it's going to end. Like, I don't like mushrooms because I'm like, okay, this was fun for 5 minutes and now I feel weird and I don't have any control over this. Like, I think I want to be in control.
A control thing. Yeah.
Like, I also, like, I don't like MDMA because it's just, I'm like, now I feel, it makes me, it doesn't do what it does to a lot of other people. Like, it makes me feel antisocial and like I want to go like sit in a corner and then wait for it to be done. I think I like drinking because it's social. Like, I like going out with my friends and like, you know, laughing and being stupid and talking about stupid things and doing karaoke and like getting loose and wild and
Yeah.
And I work a lot. Like, I think people think I'm on vacation all the time because I moved to a vacation town and probably I post a lot of vacation-y looking photos. But I work, you know, 5 or 6 days a week. Like, I work until 2 a.m. Like, if I'm working, I wake up at noon, mind you. But it's not that bad.
The grind continues as the alarm goes off and people are eating lunch.
It's almost dark.
Is this because you're up late writing?
Yeah, like I work until 2 a.m. and then you're wired because you've been working. So then I like watch
I do my
a
best
show.
writing at night.
Oh, yeah, I write at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And then I'll like try to unwind. So I'll like watch a show. So I end up getting to bed at like 3, 4 a.m. if I'm working.
Which makes sense. You wake up at noon.
Yeah, like, and I need 8 or 9 hours of sleep. I honestly do. Like, if I get less than that, I feel like shit. My brain doesn't work. My job is brain related. Like, I have to be able to function. I eat badly. Like, I don't want to work out. Like, if I'm tired, my day is fucked.
Yeah. Most people eat badly if they don't get sleep. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, like it's like you crave junk
Bad
food. Like
food,
you
yeah.
crave sugar and like white bread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just it's bad all
There's
around.
some sort of a reason for that. They've isolated some reason for why people make poor decisions with food when they're tired.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there is because it's always been like that for me.
Oh, it's
Like, I
always like
remember,
that for
like,
me.
when I had an office job, you know, and I had to be at work at 8 in the morning or whatever, I would spend the whole day drinking like sugar coffees, and then I'd want like a cookie,
Yeah.
and I'd buy like some pastry thing at the cafe. Like, I mean, I guess it's your body trying to keep you up. Like, and I don't really eat that stuff very often now.
Kind of kills your judgment too. There's something about it. It's like it kills your ability to make good decisions.
Yeah, I feel like office life is like so unhealthy. I think it works for some people. For me, it was like it made me super depressed. I felt tired all the time. I ate badly, and like I would get to Friday and be so done that I'd be like, "Go party!" And then you party all weekend, and you get to Sunday night and you're depressed, and you have to go back to work again.
Well, here's the thing that people are pushing back against a lot is the idea of doing remote office work. Like, there's a lot of people that feel like they're more productive at home, and then there's a lot of other people who feel like their employees need to be in the office because that's the only way they can keep track of their, you know, whether or not they're being effective or whether or not they're actually working. One of the things we found out during the pandemic is how many guys jerk off while they're on Zoom calls. How many
Why
people
are men so
got busted?
stupid? Honestly, sorry.
They're addicted.
That's like they're addicted to jerking off.
Yeah, they're addicted
Is
to
it that
porn.
they're looking at porn?
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, I think it's they're also when
Like, I'm like, why are you getting horny on a Zoom call?
yeah, it's not even horny. It's like addict behavior. That's what that is. Like if you're a disciplined person and you're working, you should be working, right? You're
Yeah.
working, you're on a Zoom call. But I think that whatever work is so fucking boring, or so, they're not really connected to it. So like, I'm just gonna mute my camera over here and whack one off real quick, and maybe they think it's exciting to be able to jerk
Like
off
it's
while other people are talking.
behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like secret and the bad and the shame, and it's all wrapped up in that.
Yeah, there's something to that. But I mean, like a lot of people got busted.
And they keep doing it. I mean, guys watch porn at the library, like at the public library, and like on the plane, which if I weren't, you know, a libertarian now, I'm sort of joking, I don't identify as libertarian, I would say that should be illegal. Like, it's like you can't watch porn in public.
Have you seen people watch porn on a plane? Really?
No, but I've seen other people watch. I've seen it on the internet, okay?
A friend of mine opened his laptop.
I would be so upset if I saw a man watching porn on the, like, I don't know what I would do.
Is it? It's not legal, right? What are the laws at 30,000 feet? Does that count?
I assumed it was legal.
What are the laws up there in the sky?
Can you?
You know,
like,
we have
it's
different
not.
laws.
I don't know if it's illegal to watch porn at the library because men do it.
It's. I don't think that's legal.
They might kick them out because they like be like you're gross, or if they
Obscenity
tried
laws.
to like whip out their genitals. Their gender neutral genitals.
But you know how there's like different laws if you're out in the middle of the ocean.
Okay.
Is there different laws in space?
I don't know the answer to this question.
Right? Like, I
But-
wonder if the laws are exactly the same when you're at 30,000 feet.
That's a good question because where are you still in?
Right.
Like, are
still
you in America or are you in the ocean? Like, if you're over the ocean,
Right. What is that? What
maybe
laws
it's
apply?
up to the business. Like, maybe it's according to like
Right.
American Airlines gets to decide whether or not you're allowed to watch porn on the plane. Oh,
Here it is. Although some systems of national law still adhere to the view that ships and aircraft are part of the territory of the state, the nationality of which they possess, this is merely a crude metaphor. In international law, a distinction has been made between three types of state jurisdiction: territorial jurisdiction over national territory and all persons and things therein, quasi-territorial jurisdiction over national ships and aircraft and all persons and things thereon, and personal jurisdiction over all other nationals and all persons under a state's protection as well as their property. In case of conflict, territorial jurisdiction overrides quasi-territorial jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction, while quasi-territorial jurisdiction overrides personal jurisdiction. Okay, so there's like tiers. Okay. Territorial jurisdiction over national territory. So, but that does mean that in cases of conflict, that territorial jurisdiction overrides it. So that means that if you are over the United States of America, that is territorial jurisdiction because it's territorial. So like when you're in the ocean, that makes sense. It's nobody's, which is really kind of interesting, right? It's like we allow people to own everything, but you can't own the ocean. But
yeah.
you
I
kinda-
mean, technically, you're not allowed to own a beach
Yeah,
in
but we-
Canada anyway. Is that true in the U.S. too? It is, right? Is it?
Yeah,
But you can buy up all the property close to the beach and then like build like a fence so that people can't get through. But you can't like. My parents live on a small Gulf island, and I went to like you in BC and on these islands, you can go to beaches and there's nobody else there. It's awesome and it's like super beautiful. Forests are beautiful, mountains are beautiful. Blah blah blah. But I went to this one beach and there's a path down to the beach and it says no trespassing private property, but it's like, well, it's a beach. I'm going to go to the beach. And so we're down at the beach and the chick who owns the property comes down and is like, like you're not allowed, like you're allowed to come to the beach via a boat, but you're not allowed to walk down her path to the beach. So she's essentially created a private beach. She's like, how did you get here? Like, you guys aren't allowed to walk through this place. And we're like, oh no, we're just going to swim back.
Yeah, it's weird. People don't own the beach, but you do own everything above high tide. You can own above high tide. That's how it is in Malibu. So I have a friend who has a place in Malibu, and he was telling me that his sons were surfing, and they were in this area, and this guy didn't know that they were his sons. So the guy comes out and starts screaming and yelling at them. They get the fuck off the beach. And, he got mad at the guy, and then, there's this conflict, and the guy realized, oh, you live here. Okay, these are your sons. But you're not allowed to yell at people to surf. Like, because they were laughing and surfing in front of this guy's house. So he thought because he spent $10 million on this house, he should be able to tell people you can't surf in front of my house. But there's been cases in Malibu where they hire private security. So you know what? I think it's called Billionaires Beach, like Carbon Beach. So these people that have all this money buy these houses, and then they hire private security to kick people off the beach. But they can't. You're not allowed to. So then there's lawsuits where people sue the people who kicked them off the beach. And I don't know how they resolved that. But I know it's ongoing, and technically the people that are the beachgoers are correct. You can't keep people off the beach. It's everybody's.
Yeah, it's just the getting there part that is technically illegal. But of course, these people do feel entitled, and they're like, "This is my private beach. Like, what are you doing on my private beach?"
Listen, if you want to buy a fucking place, and you want to buy a place that's on the water, that is what comes with the territory.
Yeah,
people
it's the
can
ocean.
Camp out right in
like,
front of your
people
fucking
can
house.
do whatever they want with the
Yeah.
ocean. Like, you don't get to own that.
The problem is if if you have a bedroom and you like to keep your windows open so you could hear the waves crash, and then you have people right below you, and they're fucking partying, playing shitty music, and
Too bad, bro. That's what you get for being rich.
wow. Listen to me.
I'm joking.
Hope you don't get
I hope
rich.
to be rich someday.
What is this, Jamie?
I just picked that beach, Baynard Beach.
Is that Carbon Beach?
Yeah.
See, that's beautiful, but I think where the people aren't allowed to go is wherever high tide is. So I think high tide is like right up to there. So when that area, like walking on the beach, anybody can go there. They can go there, they can play, they can fuck around. But I think above that, it's supposed to be theirs. The person who's in front of the beach, which is like still kind of fucked.
This is so strange looking to me because I've not seen, like, this isn't a thing in BC where the houses on the beach are just stacked up like townhouses. Like,
They're right next to each other.
if you
and
have a
they're,
place on the beach, like on the island, it's going to be like in the forest, and like you have acreage and.
Well, Malibu's a weird spot like that because there's so much money. And these people are so rich, and they're stuffed right next to each other. It's real weird.
It seems unpleasant to me.
I rented a house there once because my kitchen was getting redone, and it wasn't bad because you don't notice that people are there because it's so loud. You hear whoosh, whoosh. You hear the water crashing against the rocks and everything all day long, and it really is beautiful. Like in the morning, I would eat breakfast. We were only there for a couple of months, but I would eat breakfast in the morning, and the way we were at on this place that had like a deck, and the water was almost under the deck. So when you sit there eating breakfast, it's like you're on the water. I was like, oh, this is nice.
That does sound nice.
It's nice.
Like, this is
It's
terrible.
nice. Oh, it's so nice.
I would never want this.
To be able to, but that to me it's a very specific thing. Like the kind of like what I like. I like to be like almost in the water. Almost in the water is beautiful. It's because I got to look out. I was seeing like dolphins. And I was watching like seagulls swim around and shit and fly overhead. I'm like, this is nice.
Being near the ocean is the best. I mean, where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up all over the place. I was born in New Jersey, but I only lived there till I was 7. I lived in San Francisco from 7 to 11. And then I lived in Florida from 11 to 13. And then I lived in Boston for the rest of the time.
Like, I was born in Vancouver and grew up in Vancouver, so I was always near the beach. We did a lot of camping. I always swam. Like, I would bike to Kids Pool every day all summer, which is right on the ocean. And now, like, the idea of, I live in a beach town now. I would never live somewhere, or I think I would feel almost like depressed living somewhere where there was no ocean, or I would feel trapped. Like it's almost like a claustrophobic feeling. Like, and lakes don't cut it. It can't just be a body of water. It has to be the ocean that I can see and access.
That's what you like?
And I don't even go in the ocean.
Why?
Well, in Sayulita, I mean, I did in Vancouver. Like, I have been in the ocean, but it's not like in Sayulita. I don't go to the beach in Sayulita.
No?
Partly because I'm inside my house until it gets dark. But like, I don't want to, I'm not like a lie out in the sun kind of person. I'm pale.
Yeah.
I have a spray tan right now, so that's why I'm looking so.
Even
I
with
probably
your spray
look almost
tan,
like a normal human being.
You're many degrees lighter than me, even with your spray tan.
I know. That's part of the joke. But I'm
That's
not going
that
to go
Irish.
lie out in the
Yeah.
sun because I'm just
Yeah.
going to get like
Cooked.
skin damage and sweat, and I can't, like, I work in the day, like I was saying before, like I work a lot. Like if I wake up, I'm working until 2 a.m.
Right.
every day except for Thursdays because that's karaoke night. But and the
Go see you do karaoke.
I'm not very good, but I really like it.
I think that's part of the fun of karaoke is
Yeah.
sucking at it.
I mean, it's not fun if everybody's good.
Right.
You're supposed to be bad and like you yell.
It's
Like,
kind of sad when they are good.
well, yeah, it's sad if people take it seriously. Is what's sad.
It's sad if they take it seriously.
Like if you're good, but you just happen to be good and you're still kind of joking around, you're not taking yourself seriously, fine. But if you take it really seriously, I think that's
it's
embarrassing
like
and
an
depressing.
untapped potential thing.
You're like, this is my skill in life.
Yeah.
Like, well, everybody else here is just here to have fun and like scream into the microphone with their friends.
I mean, it doesn't have to be sad. Let me expand on that. It's just sad if that's your moment. You know what's sad? Unrealized dreams. That's what's sad. If you really wanted to be a musician and karaoke is the place where you get to flex your muscles, like, but then you go back to the factory in the morning, that's sad.
Yeah, or you wanted to be a pop star.
Yeah.
Like you wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
And it's sad because you're behaving as though you think that you're more talented than you actually are. And I'm not sure if deep down inside you believe it, but you kind of project that. Like, you're like, I take this really seriously because I'm very good at it and I'm very talented and I can't make a joke about this because that would like hurt my ego.
I don't even know if it's a talent thing with music. I know so many talented people now living in Austin. Austin is an amazing place to go see live music. It's really fucking cool. There's so much live music here. But what's stunning is you go to these bars and there's like 15 people in, and you see this person on stage and they're fucking amazing. And you're like,
But it's the same thing with comedy? Like there's so many amazing comedians who like never really made it. Right?
Sort of. Comedy today is more accessible. Like comedians make it now more than ever before. Talented people, which is great. They get on YouTube and they put a video up on YouTube, like their own personal thing, and they'll get hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views.
And do you make money off of that?
Well, it's not just that. It's an advertisement for people to come see you in the clubs. That's really what it is. Like all comedy specials are just to let everybody know, hey, this guy's good. You know, hey, look, she's doing it. This is it. You can watch her do this video and then see her when she's at the local club or the local theater. That's what it is. And that's more accessible now than ever before because the barrier for entry is not as steep. In that you don't need cooperation. Like a musician needs a band. You know, unless you're acoustic and you just have a guitar, that's a hard grind too, right?
Yeah.
But if you are a comedian, you just need a comedy club, and there's so many comedy clubs, and everybody's working. You know, there's a lot of working comedians now.
Like, but what does it mean to make it as a comedian? Like, what would is
able to
that
sell
your
out.
full-time job?
Yeah, full-time job and to be able to sell out a club.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when we think of like
Okay.
like I had this conversation with these guys that opened for me the other day. I was telling them, I'm like, you've gone over the hump. The hardest part is being funny. I go, then it's all about continuing to work and continuing to write and continuing to get better and continuing to write new material, and then getting aligned with a group of other comedians that can help. Because that's a big thing in comedy is people take you on the road with you. Like I take these guys on the road with me and I introduce them to the world. Like if people come to see me, you're going to come to see me, but you're also going to get to see Tony Hinchcliffe. You're also going to get to see Hans Kim. You're going to get to see Joey Diaz. And through that, you know, these guys have developed careers. So now they can go on the road. You know, like Tony sells out like big ass comedy clubs and theaters, and he kills it when he goes on the road. And it's because he did all the right things, and you know he's a perfect example. Like Tony self-produced his own special and then sold it to Netflix. He paid for it, did the whole thing.
Didn't that happen to Chris?
DiStefano?
Yeah, I really like him.
Yeah, he's great.
Like
Yeah,
he
was
just
on my
did
podcast.
his own, and then Netflix bought it.
And Netflix bought it. Ari Shaffir did the same thing. He made his own special. Netflix bought it, and a lot of people do that. That's it's easier. I don't think it's easier to be a great comedian. But
no,
it's
that would be
easier-
so hard.
It's easier to, if you are a great comedian, it's easier to make a living. I have friends that are great musicians that are fucking just above poverty.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's lots of people who are great musicians and they have to keep their day job and they do it in their free time for fun, essentially.
You have to bring people with you. You have to have like musicians, have to have fucking sound guys, you have to have a drummer and the guitar player and people that carry your stuff, roadies and the trucks for all your shit. And
yeah, but I mean, with musicians and music, it's like being good. Like, people aren't going to like your music just because you're good. Like, just because you're really talented, just because you're a really good musician, people aren't necessarily going to want to listen to it. And that's evidenced by the fact that so many people listen to like garbage crap music.
Right, but isn't that just human taste? Like, people
or no taste. I mean,
when I was younger, I used to think that way. I used to think that people who didn't like what I like or were idiots, and people who liked things that I hated were morons.
Oh, did you grow out of that?
Yeah, I grew out of that.
Okay, we'll see how I do.
I have, as I've gotten older, I've looked for less conflict in life at every given opportunity. I just try to find less conflict. And one of the best ways is to not care what other people like. Like, as long as they like I'm not into mumble rap, but I have friends who love mumble rap. They like to smoke weed and listen to mumble rap. I'm like, okay. I used to be like, what the fuck are you listening to? I don't understand a word this guy's saying. But now I'm like, okay.
Okay. I understand that some people like different things than me.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to music, like, there's some people who I think genuinely just aren't really into music, which offends me because I'm really into music and I love music. And people who sort of, I feel like there's some people who just turn it on and it's noise and they're like, this is the popular thing, I'm just going to listen to it. That's what I mean by no taste. It's not like people who are like, I don't have anything against country. It's not what I listen to in my spare time, but I totally understand and respect why people like country music.
You don't
And
like
there's
any
some that I
country?
like. No, there's some that I like. But
Do you like Sturgill Simpson?
I don't know who that is.
Say yes.
You know what, dude? I was watching your podcast the other day, and you didn't know who Wilco was.
I didn't.
That's weird.
Why is it weird?
Like, I know.
I know who it is now.
Wilco's been around for a long
Well,
time. They're
Bert
really
had to
well
tell
known
me
band.
what a great story though. How
Yeah,
Bert
beautiful.
was listening to
That was a beautiful
listening
story.
to that music on headphones, riding a bike next to wild horses, and crying because he was so happy because it was such an amazing moment because the song was playing. I think he was buzzed too. He's always drunk. He's probably drunk. I can
Seems
just
that way.
assume. I'm worried about him.
Are you really?
His face looks like a cherry. I was watching.
Is he listening right now?
I hope so. I was watching Two Bears, One Cave the other day, and Bert was on with Tom, and Tom looks like a fucking athlete. He's like lost all this weight. He's fit. He works out twice a day now, and Bert has assumed all of Tom's bad habits and ramped his up as well.
Why do you think that is? I mean, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to talk specifically about him, but like,
About
why
Bert?
do you people who sort of, who fall into alcoholism or not taking care of themselves, and maybe they did at some point and then they just stopped, because I say that like I'm thinking of people that I know in my head. I don't know Bert, so I'm not talking about him, but like people who are, it's like, you were sort of okay and now you're like a daily, like you get drunk every day.
I don't know. Well, Bert likes to party.
Well, I
I
love to
could say
party,
that.
and that's never like, and
It's a different kind of party.
genuinely like I love drinking. I love to party, but I'm super organized about it. Like, I'm super I work all these days and then I can go out Thursday night, and I kind of try to like fuck off a bit on the weekends just because otherwise I would work all the time. So I try to like not check my emails and not go on social media and stuff like that. But I still do. I often will end up working sometimes on like Sunday night or Friday night or something like that. But like, I don't want to be drunk every day. I love drinking. I love to party, but I do not want to be drunk or fucked up every day.
Well, Bert works a lot. The thing about Bert is you can't say partying is fucking up his career because it's done the opposite. Like, partying has united him with other partiers who come to see him.
But doesn't he feel like shit when he wakes up in the morning?
I would imagine he doesn't feel good, but he does a lot of IVs. He does a lot of like vitamin IVs. And,
Okay.
you know, apparently he told me, we were hanging out the other day, he got his liver done. He got his blood work done. His liver's okay. I'm like,
Okay, good.
That's great to hear. I'm worried about him. I'm genuinely worried about him because he's almost 50 and he goes hard. And, you know, he's very overweight. And he decided that when his tour was over, he was going to slow way down. and he's going to get in shape. So he documented it on Instagram. He documented the size of his gut, size of his chest, the size, like his weight. He put all that stuff down, and he's going to show measured improvement, because I think he's off at the end of this month. He's off for 3 months. So for 3 whole months, he's just going to exercise and try to eat right. And
I feel like it would be really hard to stay in shape and eat healthy if you were on the road all the time. You can probably speak to this, but like even when I used to, before COVID, I was traveling probably once a month for work, like to go to a talk or something. And it ends up being a week. And then like I can't, if I'm traveling for work, I'm not working out. I'm not exercising. I'm eating on the plane. I'm buying a sandwich at Starbucks. Like I can't, like I have to be home to maintain like a healthy lifestyle, healthy for me. But you know, like I work out 4 days a week with a trainer, and I work really hard, not out of self-motivation. I'm not self-motivated at all. That's why I have a trainer. My trainer is excellent. His name is Chris at Quilombo in Sayulita. He's so awesome. I was telling you about him earlier. Like he's not only, I mean, he was a really good boxer. He trained with Canelo. He's like really good at jiu-jitsu. He competes, but he's also he's really into training. Like he loves it. He loves teaching people things. Like he loves to like see people improve. And if I don't, like I go to training because he'll be disappointed if I don't show up. Like, and he pushes me really hard, harder than I would ever push myself. If I was partying, I wouldn't go. Like that's the other thing is if I'm out getting wasted, I'm not gonna be able to get any work done the next day, and I'm not gonna exercise, and I'm gonna eat bad. Like it really fucks up your life.
How are you doing 11 shots?
I take Fridays off. It's because I have a plan. So Thursday night, I'm being serious. Thursday night is karaoke night. It's my favorite night of the week. It's like run by my friend Zach.
You do it every Thursday?
Every single Thursday. And that bar is across the street from my house. I can't not go. I'd be sitting inside my house listening and be like, oh, there's my friend singing Pearl Jam. So I may as well just go. But I also love it. But that one day a week, the bar stays open until 5 a.m. instead of 2 a.m. for karaoke night. So I am up until 5, 6 a.m. every single Thursday. So Fridays, I don't work out. I don't plan work stuff. Like I don't schedule interviews. I plan to be in bed until 5 p.m.
This is really interesting because you've kind of cultivated this very idyllic life there. It's very romantic. Like you're a writer, you're up late at night, you're drinking all the time. Like there's something about drinking and writing that seem to go hand in hand. You know, like some of my favorite writers were drunks. I
agree with you, but I don't drink if I'm writing.
Yeah, you don't have to. Like
if I'm working, I'm not like I'll have a glass of wine. Like I have a glass of wine every night or 2 glasses of wine every night, but I don't get like drunk. But I love my life. It's amazing. Like I really wish I made more money because like I don't have any like savings and I don't own anything. But it's like all my friends in BC are depressed.
Well, you're a really good writer, you know, and I think it's a matter of time before you do make more money. But maybe it's just also the way you're doing it is kind of interesting too, with the Patreon or the Substack and that kind of setup. That's a very honest way to live, though. You know, people are only paying you for what they like. And it's their choice, their decision, you know?
Totally. Like anybody can just donate money to me if they support my work. And they do. And I find that really like kind of amazing and generous because I don't know if I do that. Like, it's
a great relationship.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's liberating for me. I just do what I want to do. Like I write about what I want to write about. I think about what's important to me. I talk to people I find interesting.
Tell me what your Substack is, so just so I can find you.
It's called The Same Drugs, but I think it's just Meghan Murphy, like at Substack or whatever. Okay. Meghan with an H. And it's pretty new, but I writing is what I want to do. I don't have enough time to write as much as I want to write because I spend so much time on the podcasts and the video stuff and just doing admin work and blah, blah, blah.
Do you think that there's something about drinking that formulates ideas in my head that don't seem to want to be there without drinking? Like there's times with drinking like bumps you or shoves you into an area of thought where you're laughing about something that maybe you wouldn't have laughed about. Or you have like what is, and you like for conversation. It's like one of the greatest things for conversation. When you're out with some friends and you're drinking whiskey and you're like 2 drinks in and everyone's laughing, and then someone just goes, "Why is this a thing?" And then it's like, I know that's coming from his mind. I know it's all coming from our minds, but there's a part of your mind that opens up when you're drinking.
Yep. I mean, I think, I feel like you can make certain connections or observations about social things as well when you're drinking. But obviously, like, it loosens people up to be more themselves.
Yeah.
They're not as aware of what they're doing. They're not as self-conscious. They're not as protective. You know, they're going to be more open. I love that about, like, I love going to the bar and, like, talking to the person who's sitting next to me.
Right.
I like meeting people at the bar. Like, I would have never done this in Vancouver. In Sayulita, I just go out by myself because, I mean, it's a small community, so I know lots of people, and I know if I go to the bar, I'm probably going to see a friend. But even if I don't, like, I'll just go sit at the bar, and, like, the person next to me will start talking to me, and I'll be cool, and I'll learn something, and they'll be interesting. And that's so not the culture. And I would have felt so embarrassed to go to a bar by myself. Like, men did that in Vancouver. Men go sit at bars by themselves. But to be a woman and go sit at a bar by themselves, like,
right.
You're going to feel awkward and stupid and embarrassed. Everyone in Vancouver is so judgy, too. And you'll feel like people assume you want to be hit on, or you're desperate, you have no friends.
Right.
And it's not, like, I like it. I have friends, and I like being by myself. I like going out to eat by myself.
It sounds like you're in a great community.
Yeah, it
sounds like it's
great.
perfect for you.
And people are not, like, people don't care what your politics are. Nobody knew what I did or who I was there for until I did your podcast. And then I couldn't hide it anymore that I was a bigot. But it was really beautiful because I had been so ostracized in Vancouver because of the gender identity stuff. Like, I mean, for people who don't know, because I'm critical of gender identity and I don't think men can become women, and I want to protect women's rights and protect kids. You know, people in Vancouver, a lot of people just ghosted me. Some people said, I can't hang out with you anymore. You can't come to my birthday party because my friend hates you because she thinks you're a transphobe. Like, friends of friends who don't know me at all would basically bully my friends into not hanging out with me. And I was so angry. I was a little bit hurt, but more just like, fuck you, you fucking pussy. Like, you know, that is so disrespectful. Like, you don't disagree with me, you don't dislike me, but you're worried about what your friends will think. And so you're like, and they behaved as though I was causing trouble in their lives because they would end up in these arguments with their friends, or, you know, in a position where they were being asked to defend me, or being asked to condemn me. And it made things stressful for them, and they blamed me. So they would be like, you know, you're making things really hard for me. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. But in Sayulita, like, I did your podcast and I came back and everybody was just like really proud of me. Like, it didn't matter what I said. And a lot of people agreed with me. Maybe some people didn't. And they were like, good for you. That you did a really good job.
One
like, they're so sweet.
Meghan, is people agree with you in silence.
Yeah.
They agree with you in hushed tones and whispers. You know, they'll say it at the water cooler when no one's around. Like, she's got a point about certain things. Like, especially when it comes to, like, athletic competition. This is one that's dividing the country right now. It's like this thing where someone can decide or identify as a woman and compete against biological women. And it turns out the standards that you have to achieve to do that are different everywhere, right? It's different with the Olympics. It's different with certain organizations won't accept trans athletes. Certain ones will. Certain ones all you have to do is identify. You don't have to have any proof of what you're doing. And it's just, especially when it comes to like high school sports and college sports, like, you are now competing with someone who's trying to get a scholarship. And if someone is an elite athlete, so say if a woman is an elite athlete in a certain sport and she has fucking been grinding it out her whole life, and then some biological male comes along and identifies as a woman, and then a year later is competing against women and has almost supernatural advantages. And this is what we're seeing. And it doesn't make you a bigot to say that. This is what's so fucked up about this whole thing. It's like you can be an open-minded, compassionate person who also sees the truth. And where the rubber hits the road, in my eyes, is when there's clear classifications of male or female. In sports, it's a great example. There's a clear classification. The men don't compete against the women because they have an advantage. We agree to that from the beginning.
And we've always known that, because otherwise these
Yes.
categories wouldn't exist. And women wouldn't have sports if we didn't know that, and we didn't decide if women are going to play sports competitively, if women are going to compete, they have to have their own category because they can't compete against men. They'll lose.
Yeah. It's not fair. It's that simple. It's not fair. And I don't know what the solution is. And I don't think it's necessarily that the trans person should have to compete as a man. I don't think that's the answer either. I don't think there's enough trans people for trans people to compete as trans people, like to win a trans division. I don't think that's the solution either. I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that there's rules when it comes to competition. And one of the rules is you can't take performance-enhancing drugs, right? Like if you're a person and you want to compete in certain sports, they blood test you. They'll VADA test you. They'll make sure that you're not doing anything. Well, if you're, let's say, if you're a female to male transgender person, right? So you're a trans man and you want to be competing with other men. We really don't hear about that, and we're really not upset at that. Like no one's complaining about that happening, right? But if that person did want to complain, here's what they would say: this person has exogenous testosterone that's not derived from human beings. It's derived from wild yams. Okay, so we do a carbon isotope. I think that's what it is. It's a more complicated test. It's not just recognizing the levels of the test. It's recognizing where the testosterone comes from. We have synthetic testosterone in your system. That's absolutely illegal. Well, if you have synthetic estrogen in your system, is that okay? And how much testosterone are you allowed to have? Because there's a guy named Derek who runs this YouTube show, More Plates, More Dates. And he was going over thresholds because he was talking about that woman, the swimmer from Leah Thomas. Mm-hmm. And he was going over the thresholds. He's like, the thresholds that like where in certain sports where they test and they say, okay, you can compete as a woman, are like way higher than most women are normally.
Exactly. I mean, it's so
But you
weird.
can still compete as a woman.
Yeah.
But if you were a woman and you were on steroids, they wouldn't let you compete.
Yeah.
This is my point. It's like something's off. Like this is not fair. And it has nothing to do with someone's identity. Like if it's
like,
not
your
like,
identity doesn't matter.
It's also I don't want to change that. I'm going to affect what your name is or what your pronouns are or any of that shit. I don't care. I'm just saying in this thing, we have to recognize it's not boom, you're a woman, abracadabra. It's not a magic wand. There's some fucking gray area. And if you don't want to admit that, if you want to pretend that doesn't exist, well, now we're in a cult. Now we're ideologically bound to these ideas where you can't even discuss. Like, there's a lot of people I know that are liberal.
You can't discuss reality and you can't tell the truth.
Exactly, but
you can't ask questions even.
Yes, you can't say it. You can't even discuss it.
Okay, the solution is that if you're male, you have to compete in the male category, and if you're female, you have to compete in the female category. There's no other solution. The idea of creating a trans category would be fine in theory, but there's not enough trans people for that to make sense. And my opinion is that if you want to be an athlete, if you want to compete, then you make a decision about whether or not you want to take hormones.
Yeah.
And if you're taking hormones, you can't compete, just like everybody else. Like, you can be trans if you want, but that might take you out of the competition. So you choose what's more important to you. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but there's no other solution. If you're a male, if you've gone through puberty, you have an advantage. Your body is totally different. Like, I just interviewed Taylor Silverman, who is a skateboarder, a female skateboarder, and she lost first place to a so-called trans woman. So a male who is identifying as a woman. And it was a Red Bull contest, and she contacted Red Bull privately. Like, she wasn't trying to make a big show of anything. She's like a wonderful young woman. She's like super articulate, super respectful, super smart. And she's not like making a ton of money off of skateboarding. She's 27 years old. She's not going to be doing this forever. She spoke out because she felt it wasn't fair. And what she was like, this might affect, if I have kids one day, it might affect my daughter. Like, this doesn't really affect me that much. She contacted Red Bull privately and said, hey, this happened. I don't think this is fair. Like, this, I lost out on $2,000. Like, I should have been in first place. A bunch of other stuff. Red Bull totally ignored her. So she posted on social media. She got a ton of traction, a ton of attention, and a ton of support. And it's like, maybe some people think about skateboarding and they're like, well, what advantage does a man have over a woman in skateboarding? But like, your hips move differently, like you're jumping, you're like, I don't skateboard, so I'm not going to explain this as well as somebody who skate. But there are advantages and differences in all sorts of subtle ways, as well as in very obvious ways when we're talking about sports like track, swimming, MMA, like Jesus Christ, like you're beating people up.
Well, that's where I came into the conversation.
Yeah.
When that thing was happening where there was a trans woman who was a male for 30 years, who was only transitioned within the last 2 years and was not telling anybody and saying that it was a medical issue. So she fought 2 different women that were biological females and beat the fuck out of them. And that's when I stepped in. I was like, you're out of your fucking mind. This is crazy, because I've been around martial arts my whole life. There's a giant difference. There's a giant difference between men and women. The big one is power. The difference is so stark. It's so different. Like, if you got a powerful person, like someone who's a really hard striker, like a Tyron Woodley. If Tyron Woodley transitioned to be female, like, how much are you going to deplete him where it's not the most ruthless execution every time he steps into the cage?
It's disgusting.
Because there's just a different. He's too big for most women. He's 170 pounds. He was one of the best welterweight champions in the UFC. But if someone was like smaller, like 135 pounds, like, there's women that can beat men. Don't make no mistake about it. And we talked about it on the podcast
in the MMA,
recently.
or do you mean like a woman who's skilled could beat a man who's not?
No, women in MMA. Jermaine Durandamy is a multiple-time world kickboxing champion, Muay Thai champion. She was UFC featherweight champion. She's a fucking savage, and she fought a man in a boxing match.
How big is she?
Him.
Like, how tall?
She's tall. She's very tall. I believe she's like 5'11" and real long and very wiry and strong, and she's a phenomenal striker.
Okay, so is that like about
you want to see
skill?
it?
Yeah,
dope.
totally.
Watch her knock this.
I'm like, I'm really into MMA now. I mean, I know that I don't know what, because I text you and I'm like,
okay.
Why did this person
Watch
win?
This.
And
This
you're
is
like,
Jermaine.
duh.
I'm a big fan of her. She's got a lightning bolt right hand. So she's fighting a dude, and the dude is not on her level. Definitely not on her level, but he's still a fucking dude.
She's awesome.
And look, I mean, he hit her with a big fucking shot there.
She's amazing.
Clubbed her in the break. Dude, she's a demon. You got to watch her fight. She has like one of the most technical stand-up games in all of MMA today. She's really good on her feet. Really good. Look at that right hand. And so this dude is just...
She's awesome. Like, she's like in there. Like, she's...
Yeah.
She's good.
So watch it. Here, No. You almost had it. You almost had it to where the KO is. Okay, this is it right here? It goes into this corner. Yeah, that's when they're going to go to this corner on the left, and that's where the KO happens. But it's really crazy because the guy was hurting her. I mean, he was really... Like, here it is. 1, 2, 3. And watch this. Watch this perfect right hand. Because the dude's swarming on her, right? And as soon as they break free, bam! Dude. I mean, that is fucking picture perfect. That dude got wrecked. I mean,
amazing.
But that's the kind of technique.
Why did she get to
has.
fight a dude? How did this happen?
It's not in America.
Where is it?
I believe it's in Holland.
And was
it
like she was like, I want to
to
fight a dude, or how did this?
Yeah, she knew it was good. She just said, I'll fucking fuck you up, bitch.
Yeah.
And so they had to fight. So she agreed to fight a guy. But that also happened with one of the great women boxers of the 80s and 90s, this woman named Lucia Riker. And Lucia Riker was also a world Muay Thai champion. And she was the most dangerous female boxer for years. And they were always trying to set her up with Christy Martin. Remember Christy Martin, the coal miner's daughter? She was like a famous female boxer.
Did she wrote a book or an autobiography or something like that? Did she?
I think you're thinking of the singer. What's that woman's name?
I'm thinking of a singer. No, I'm thinking of a boxer. I just am thinking.
Daughter.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm thinking of.
Is that Dolly Parton
anyway,
originally?
clearly I don't know who
from
this person
1980
is.
called
So.
Coal Miner's Daughter.
But
yeah.
isn't there an original song?
Well, I would imagine she's singing, and I'm not sure who that is.
I don't want to double down on this because it's not what I was thinking of. A boxer who
Yeah,
was a
Christy
woman
Martin.
who wrote a book.
So this was my point. They never fought, but everybody always felt like Lucia Riker was the better boxer. Like
Okay.
people that were martial arts enthusiasts and boxers, they thought that Lucia Riker was the woman, the one to beat. So she fought a dude, but she got knocked out. And it's rough because it's the same sort of situation. See if you can find that.
I mean,
Lucia
I feel
Riker
like
gets
these
knocked out by a
kinds
man.
of things would be the things where people are like, well,
Yeah.
I guess women can compete against men, so why
No,
are
no,
we
no, no,
keeping
no, no,
trans
no.
women
She's
out? But this is an exception.
She's an outlier of all outliers.
Yeah.
She's I mean, Jermaine Durandamy is a multiple-time world champion. She's elite. Like when I watch her hit the pads, it's like I could just, wow, it's like beautiful. Ta-da, bang, ta-da, bang. Like everything is smooth. When she's moving in, it's like you're watching a fucking executioner.
Amazing.
It's beautiful to watch. But that's an outlier. That's the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
That's literally right here, world champion.
Yeah.
Everybody else is fucked because Lucia Riker was a world champion, and the guy that she fought was not. He was just not. He was okay, but he was no way was he in the level that she was. Look at this, and that's Lucia Riker, and she gets cracked somewhere in there. This is a Muay Thai fight. That's right, and she gets KO'd. And as a woman, she was just one of the. Actually, this dude's a lot better than I give him credit for.
She's so intense.
The dude is a lot better than I give credit for. I'm thinking it's something
Look at her
different
go.
here. I might have confused this. There it is right there. There it is. There it is. And she gets KO'd. That guy's a lot better than I thought he was. You know, I think when I first saw this, I was probably upset that he knocked her out, and I probably disparaged his skill. And
You're
then I looked at it that way.
He shouldn't have won. She's better.
But that was a beautiful left hand. I'm definitely, and another one. That was, yeah. I mean, that guy's good. I'm wrong.
What do you think that the guys like? How often does this happen where men and women?
Very rarely.
Yeah,
but
I've never seen it.
That's an example. They probably both weigh the same weight, but the amount of power that guy had, like that left hook.
It's funny because she looks bigger than him. I mean, maybe she's taller.
Well, she's
but
also wearing a t-shirt.
She looks bigger and like tougher than he does. Like he looks tiny, but maybe that's just because you expect men to be bigger and women
This
to be
is
smaller.
shit. Grain footage, right? It's not that good. Oh, so he's a Thai as
She
well.
versus he.
Somchai Jaidi. Yeah, is from New Zealand.
I mean, but people do like people who defend like trans women being able to compete against women in sport do use these like random examples where it's like,
Like Jermaine Durandamy, yeah.
you know, well, so and so is faster, or
Yeah.
so and so beats so and so, but it's like that's not common. And to me, like the sports thing is so great and interesting because it reaches every normal person who was not engaged in the debate around gender and identity, which was primarily for so long. It really was like, I don't think people know this, but it was radical feminists. Like Janice Raymond wrote a book about transgenderism and how it was like dangerous to women and women's rights in 1979.
What?
Yes. It's called The
what?
Transsexual Empire.
I didn't know.
And it's a good book. It's interesting.
I didn't know that it was that big of a political issue back then.
And then, like, Gloria Steinem in the late 70s, I think, said something critical about, there was like a tennis player, a male tennis player.
Renee
who was-
Richards.
They used to call them, okay, I think you're right. I'm
Yeah.
really bad with names, so I apologize. I'm like,
one that
yeah, the
transitioned?
coal miner's daughter.
The one that transitioned?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that was a famous story.
And she was critical. Gloria Steinem was critical of that publicly. You know, she was critical of this idea of transgenderism. Like, she was like, you shouldn't change to fit the gender stereotypes of the world. You should. I'm fully paraphrasing. This is not what she said. She said something critical. She retracted it in later years because she was bullied into it. But, you know, this debate was happening in the late 70s and 80s, and radical feminists were like not having it at all. Like, it's only recently that all these so-called feminists started to come around and say trans women are women. And even then, the radical feminists are the ones that have been fighting this for so long. Julie Bindel, who is a UK journalist, wrote an article in 2004 for The Guardian about what happened at Vancouver Rape Relief, which is it's a rape crisis line and a transition house for women escaping domestic abuse. And a trans woman, Kimberly Nixon, came to training for counselors. Like, so counselors who were there at the house, like working with women who were escaping serious domestic abuse and sexual assault. And the women who were doing the training were like, sorry, you're a man. Only women are allowed to train as counselors here. They only had women employees, volunteers. Only women are allowed in the house. And Kimberly Nixon took them to court, to the Human Rights Tribunal. Vancouver Rape Relief went all the way to the Supreme Court and won. They won the right to determine their own membership. They didn't win, trans women are men. And Julie Bindel wrote about that case in 2004. Like, radical feminists were trying to warn people about what was happening and what was going to happen if we allowed this to go on, and nobody listened. And now it's like almost too late. And, whatever, this is how things go. And nobody listens to radical feminists. This is like a very marginal political movement.
Yeah.
But like, it's very frustrating to me because now we're seeing, I don't want to categorize people because, I was going to say right-wing men, but I like a lot of right-wing men. There's a lot of right-wing people who are great. A lot of people who really do care about women's rights. But we're seeing some right-wing men like showing up online and being like, where are all the feminists on this issue? How come I'm the only person brave enough to say that men aren't women and to speak up? And it's like, dude, we have been trying to be heard. I couldn't get anything published on this. Like when Bill C-16, Canada's gender identity legislation, showed up, the Liberals were trying to push it through in 2016. I pitched to everywhere to say, these are my concerns with regard specifically to the impact on women's rights. These are the issues I have with this ideology. I think it's regressive. I think it's sexist. I think it's dangerous. Nobody would publish anything. Like the Canadian media would not have me on. They would not interview me. Every single event that we tried to plan, we'd, get threatened. The venues would pull out. This happened in the UK. This happened in the US. I'm so grateful that I had my own platform and my own website so that I could write about this stuff and so that I could interview women who were doing work on this issue and interview people who were experts. Because otherwise I don't know where I would have said any of this stuff. Like we finally pushed to host talks, and that forced the media to cover it a bit. But like, I don't know why I started complaining about this, except that it makes me really mad.
That's why. I don't know who I was talking to about this, but the conversation essentially was, this person I was talking to, whoever it was, I forgive them. Forgive me, please. She was saying that the problem becomes a lot of people that are women who have these groups that are dedicated just to women. And then a trans woman will come in these groups and behave like a man and bring like a man's attitude to this thing. And she's like, it's specific and it's not discussed. So it's this thing that happens where they start acting male, for lack of a better term. So like she was talking about taking over things, running things, like being like very outspoken and aggressive with their opinions about things in almost an intimidating way.
Yeah.
A way like a man does it.
Yeah.
There was a fucking anti-abortion or a pro-choice rally. And this trans woman was screaming with the deepest voice, "Keep your laws out of my pussy."
Oh my God.
But it was so wild.
And that's just like domineering behavior. Like
But they weren't even trying to hide. I mean, it was such a masculine voice.
Well, and I'm like, I don't believe that you believe it. Like I'm like, you don't think you're a woman.
But
give
it
me a
could be a
break. You're
sketch.
just being a bully.
That might be like a Louder with Crowder sketch. We might
Yeah, I
find
mean, a
that
lot of
later.
it seems like satire, and it's hard to tell which is
fucking very
satire
hard
and
to
which
tell.
is real.
It's very hard to tell. That's the problem, is that things are getting blurry.
But I think a lot of men, identify as women or trans women specifically so that they can act like bullies. Not all of them. Some people just want to be themselves, and that's fine. Go be yourself. I don't care. But like, so that you can insert yourself into spaces and conversation and take over. I think that the kind of men who identify as women or trans women who go into women's change rooms or bathrooms, or like there was that guy at the spa in
in LA.
LA. I think that they're they want to make women feel uncomfortable. You know that you're making women feel, you're parading around naked in a change room, in a women's change room, or at like a woman only spa. You know that you're making people feel uncomfortable and you're doing it anyway. Like, you're an asshole and you're a pervert.
Well, you can't say that.
Well, I
You can't say that. Megan.
or you'll
You
get
can't have that
banned from
opinion.
Twitter.
You're gonna get in trouble. But
Sorry, I hope I don't get you
what is
in
this?
trouble.
Unhinged. A hairy armpit individual with green hair. Chance, keep your laws out of my pussy.
Is that it?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I bet there was more of those.
Oh, there's
Keep
a
your
lot.
That looks
I
like a
just,
real
laws
woman.
pussy.
That's I couldn't tell.
That could be a woman that does CrossFit.
All right.
She doesn't look in that good shape, or he.
No, she doesn't. But if she's an overweight woman who does a lot of overhead presses, it's possible that's a woman.
There are some women who look mannish in the MMA,
Mannish.
for example.
Up to a fucking certain
But you can
level.
tell.
Yeah, up to a level. You sit them next to Yoel Romero, you know who's the fucking woman.
I find it hilarious that when trans activists pretend that nobody can tell. Like,
Oh, it's so
oh,
crazy.
well, you've probably had trans women in your bathroom your whole life and you didn't know. And it's like, everybody knows. You know who a man is, you know who a woman is. Like, there's very few that like are sort of ambiguous, but for the most part, it's obvious. And sometimes it's not even. Oh, would you like some more racia?
Just,
Just-
last sip. No,
Okay, you're
I'm
not gonna
good.
try. Okay,
That's
okay.
nasty.
You can try it another time
it's
with Snoop.
nasty.
This is this is actually good. It's good. Anyway,
But the thing is, you can't even have that on the table. When you leave, when you have an open door, right? You say all you have to do is identify, and then you could be around these people. You must open the door to the possibility the perverts are going to go in there. If you want to pretend
Yeah.
that to be trans excludes the possibility of you being a pervert, that's crazy. It's totally possible that someone could say they identify as trans. I'm not saying that people are doing this. I'm saying it's totally possible. This must be considered. And people have been, people have been assaulted. Biological males have gone into females' bathrooms and assaulted them. It's a fucked up individual more than it is indicative of trans people overall.
it's
But
not
this-
it's not about trans. I'm not saying like it's about trans people being predators. It's about some
Humans.
male
humans
who are
yes.
predators and use that as a way to get away with it. Or
There was
whatever.
also something, I forget who told me this too. It might have been Bridget. Autogynephilia.
Yes. This
Please.
is when I say pervert or when I say fetishist, like, I know it sounds offensive. Like, if I'm like, these men are men with fetishes. Like, men who, there's research on this, men who transition when they're younger tend to be gay men. I think it's Ray Blanchard that did this research. Tend to be gay men. And men who transition when they're older, middle-aged, tend to be heterosexual men with fetishes, with like what might be called cross-dressing fetishes. Like, they're turned on by wearing women's clothes and by the idea of wearing women's clothes in public, and by the idea of like passing as a woman. Obviously, none of them pass as women, but that it's a fetish and it's called autogynephilia. And a lot of people have talked about this being part of the reason that transgenderism became mainstream, became part of the LGBTQ activism stuff, and why they attach themselves to this born this way mantra. Like, some people are just born trans, and why this idea of trans kids exists. Like, some kids are just born in the wrong body. And some babies are assigned male, and in fact, they're girls, because these guys wanted to legitimize their fetishes and their preferred identities. So they had to pretend that it was something innate. They had to push this narrative that it was something innate, that it wasn't just about them, having this fetish for wearing.
But
women's
how
clothing.
could you know that, though? How could you know that some people aren't born and they feel like they're in the wrong body? Like some boys who are born and they feel like I'm supposed to be a girl.
Doesn't matter. So you feel like you're supposed to be a girl. You're not. You're a boy. Like, so what? Like, I think that for some people, then it's a mental illness, and we're not allowed to say that. Like, if you're a male,
But is it absolutely a mental illness? Here's the question: if someone is born male, but they feel in every fiber of their being that they're supposed to be a woman, and they're healthy every other way, is that really mental illness, or is there some wiring that should be male and is female. Some not understood mechanism that makes someone feel like they're a woman or feel like they're a boy.
Okay, so mental condition. Then don't call it mental illness. Call it a mental condition. Like if you're a male and you feel certain that you're actually supposed to be female, you hate your male body parts so much to such an extent that you cannot live comfortably. You have to get rid of them. And to be clear, go ahead and do that. You're an adult. You have the right to get cosmetic surgeries. I think that surgeons should be more accountable and culpable and like warn people about the dangers and about the fact that they might not be able to orgasm again or it might be mangled. Like these are real serious, dangerous surgeries. But, you know, that's a mental condition. Just like if you were a man and you believed so strongly, like there's those people that get like, you know, lizard, you know, they get like bone, like what are those implants in their foreheads and they like
have you ever seen the
get
Black
rid of
Alien
their
Project?
noses? Yes.
Have you seen the Black Alien Project? Have you seen him lately, Jamie? He chopped off 2 of his fingers to try to emulate what he believes would be an alien claw. So on one of his hands, he only has 2 fingers. And I think he's going to do it to the other hand too.
What is that?
And now he's also implanted all these beads all over his arm. So he has like a spiral of beads over his arm.
Like what is that?
Look at his right hand.
What is this? Like
chopped his
why
fucking
would
finger off.
somebody do this?
Look what he's doing to his arm. But he's turning himself into like an alien.
Like this should be like whatever surgeon is doing this to him, I think is unethical.
It's really did he chop off his top finger too, or is he tucking it in? Oh, there it is. Yeah. You know, he's got 2 fingers on one hand. But like, look at this, everything about him.
Do you think this person was traumatized as a child?
Something happened.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? There's photos of him when he was younger before he got all this stuff done, and he's a good looking guy. It's like what he's doing is like really bizarre.
Lord.
Like he was like gifted by nature with great genetics. Look, he's got his eyeballs tattooed.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about, the
crazy.
nose thing. Like he's like...
Yeah, he's got his nose removed.
Yeah.
He just has an open hole.
Yeah.
Where his nose used to be. It's so crazy. Like that's what he looks like.
And is
What
this
in
because
the
he
fuck?
believes that he's actually an alien,
No,
or
it's
he
like
just...
a body modification project? I believe I think he speaks Spanish. Is that what it is? Yeah, he speaks Spanish. So you have to
I
translate.
feel like this person must have severe childhood trauma.
Something's up. I mean, they got his ears removed too. Oh, Jesus Christ. That is so crazy.
Okay, but I mean...
That's so goddamn crazy. So those cuts on the side must be where they put those brow implants.
Lord.
Holy fucking
Who is
shit.
doing this to this man?
A lot of people, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Is
Oh,
that
there go. Work by my bro. All right, let's check out your bro.
Ew.
Oh, that guy's got his tongue split. Oh, Jesus Christ. Whew.
No.
What is that? What is that? I don't even know what bone that is. Is that someone's back? What is that? What are we looking at? What does it say up there? Fresh Works, it says. Genital implants.
No.
Oh, no.
Why are we looking?
No. God damn it.
We
Back
were
up.
looking at a dick this whole time?
Oh, go back. Go back to that.
It says it's a dick.
Oh my God. So you only see the top of the dick. So it's like side dick skin. Look how great. That guy's got a hairy ass dick. I
Yeah.
don't want to pluck those hairs, son. Look at that. I thought that was like his back.
Do you think that he's having sex with people?
I bet that shit's gonna hurt.
I bet there's not that many people. Well, there's probably
They have,
other
like-
weirdos who are like, I want to have sex with an alien.
They have dick butt plugs. It's like a butt plug. That's what it is. He's turning his dick into a butt plug. So it's got all those like humps.
Oh.
That's what it is. It's like beads. You know, people use
So
anal
it's
beads.
for men, not for women.
It's for butts. It might be for women.
Yeah. No, women don't like anal sex, and
Whoever
this is
wants
a
it.
hill
that
that I'm
true?
going to die on. Women don't have a prostate. Like, men and some women are so stupid about this thing because they're like, I like anal sex.
So do you think women are saying,
must like...
What the fuck, man?
There's the bottom of that's
What
like
is
the
happening here?
eyeball.
He's got his eyeballs tattooed, but it looks like
Oh, they're tattooed.
oh my God.
Wild colors.
That is awful.
It looks cool,
these
but that's
people
crazy.
It looks cool for now. What about
Yeah.
you're
This,
90?
I think this qualifies as self-harm. Like, I think it's the same concept, but way more extreme of, like, cutting.
Well, the thing about this one is this doesn't turn back. You can't turn that around.
Nope.
Once you get your eyeballs tattooed, your eyeballs are tattooed forever. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just like people are doing things to themselves, and whoa! Look at that girl! Oh my God! Look at her eyes.
I think a lot of this kind of thing is like trauma, and then it's like attention and wanting to feel special and wanting
Okay, I've seen
some
that.
kind of narcissism.
Wait a minute, that guy with the split tongue right there. Hold on, go
Yeah,
back. That
that's-
one right there. What the fuck,
so
man?
gross.
Oh my God! Jesus Christ, that is so.
How do you
crazy.
think these people make a living?
Starbucks, baristas.
They're queer activists. Oh, that was mean.
Woo! Oh God. Sometimes. I mean, I'm saying all this while I'm covered in tattoos. My arms are sleeved up. I have a lot
Yeah,
of
but I
tattoos.
feel like tattoos, I mean, that's cross-cultural. Like, people have always done that kind of thing.
I like tattoos. I just don't like
Lots
your
of people
eyeballs
do.
done and fucking bolts put in your head. But so to go back to that, what we're talking about, if someone feels like they've been a girl their whole life,
It doesn't make them actually a girl.
so where should that preclude them from? Sports? Should preclude them from women's bathrooms? Like,
I think it should preclude them from competing against and with women in sport. I don't know. I mean, the bathroom thing's funny because I don't know that they're like, I feel like like if you're a man, you don't go into women's bathrooms. You don't want to make women feel scared or uncomfortable.
unless you do. Unless you do. That's what you're trying to do.
I don't think this is such a complicated issue as people are making it out to be. I think everybody knows what bathroom they should go into. Prisons, if you're male, you got to stay in the male prison. You cannot be transferred to the female prison.
But how are you going to get anybody pregnant
Exactly.
if you don't get transferred
How
to the
are
female
these
prison?
women going to have babies?
Isn't that hilarious? That one biological male got 2 women pregnant.
You're like,
So, like, here's the question. If you're a biological male and say you've transitioned and you want to be identified as a female and go to a female prison if you get arrested, do you have to take estrogen?
no.
So you could just stop taking estrogen?
I don't think you have to do anything. I think you just have to identify as a woman and like apply and say, I'm a woman.
What a wacky move. Because you can keep your dick and all your hormones and everything
you can
rocking
totally
and rolling.
fully keep
and
your
just,
dick.
Just slinging dick all over the cell block.
Well, and in Canada, like I've talked to women who have been in prison with men, and there are sexual assaults that have gone on in women's prisons perpetrated by men, and obviously.
How long have
sexual
they been
harassment.
allowed them to do that? To go to women's prisons?
I don't know when it started exactly, but at least a few years. And now, obviously, it's getting worse because this has like been further entrenched in the law.
So how did that happen, do you think? Well, this is what's really interesting. It's not just acceptance. It's a celebration and a societal shaming of people who question it and talk about it. Like, this is not like there's people that are shitty people. They don't like people for whatever reason, whether they don't like gay people, they don't like trans people, they don't like all kinds of people. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like just there's a mantra that almost you have to say, like trans women are women. And you say that. And so if you don't say that and you even discuss it, if you talk about things like, hey, that swimmer was number 462 with the men and now she's number 1 as a woman, like maybe that's not fair. Like maybe if that was your kid going to that school, you wouldn't think it's fair. People would fucking blow up at you. They'll get mad at you. There's a certain amount of people that feel like this is their chance to show their loyalty to this ideology, and they'll argue it like in a very aggressive way. And it's interesting because like how many people are we talking about? Like how many people is this actually affecting where the discussion has gone through the entire culture? It's really interesting in that way. Like, so what happened and what rocketed that to the position that it's in now?
I mean, the prison issue specifically I believe that was just about the Canadian government not wanting to deal with this problem, and they're like, okay, sure, fine.
They're doing
because
it here
in
too,
Canada, the Canadian government will not discuss or acknowledge that this is really happening, nor will the Canadian media. There are women who are ex-inmates who are fighting this, and some, women, radical feminists who are fighting this. But the Canadian government will not engage with them, will not acknowledge. I mean, essentially, they've determined that protecting themselves from controversy, protecting themselves from being, attacked by trans activists or criticized or whatever, they're just going to let this happen. And who cares what the result is for the women in prison who are having to share their cells with men who are impregnating them?
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they're being completely cowardly and completely unethical.
But it's so weird that that's made its way into law enforcement. Like, that's what's weird to me. And even the military. Like, I've seen, and I've seen a lot of, like, special forces guys and Navy SEALs and some, like, high-level guys that are super upset with this.
What's happening in the military?
Wokeness making its way, and woke language making its way into the military. And they're like, hey, we're in the business. Like Tim Kennedy said this. He said, we are in the business of killing bad guys. And anything that gets in the way of killing bad guys it's not something we're going to tolerate. Like they're just not interested. Like you can't have that get to that level. You have like these special forces guys who have to do these insane operations under extreme pressure, very high likelihood of death. And you can't have any bullshit there. You have to have the best trained, most qualified, everything has to be accurate, everybody has to form as a unit. You can't have any bullshit there. And if you've got some ideological bullshit, like you have to say this, or we have to have a certain amount of people that are that, or this, like, no, not there. Because that's the place where literal life or death is in the balance.
And you cannot be thinking about that nonsense.
Like imagine, you know how hard BUDS is for Navy SEALs? It's like one of the most extreme tests that any military organization puts on a member. If you can become a Navy SEAL, you are a highly distinguished human being who can do some things that most people can't do in terms of like your will, your ability to force your way through situations that are extremely difficult and uncomfortable. You can't say with that, we're going to lighten up our expectations because we like to have some trans SEAls. You know what I'm saying?
It cannot be about inclusivity.
Right. It has to be only a meritocracy. It has to only be the people that can fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know?
What a strange place for like wokeness to be inserted.
It's bizarre that it's discussed in the military, but they have discussed it. They've discussed all kinds of like woke talk. And people are pushing back against it because they're surprised that it was there. I'm like, you guys are the fucking hired killers. You guys are the hired killers of the government. And you're talking woke.
Ridiculous.
But it's so interesting to me how it's accelerated in what Douglas Murray always talks about, that for some reason, when a civilization is near the end, they become obsessed with gender.
Yeah. I mean, it's partly an obsession with gender and then hedonism, I think.
Hedonism.
Like, I think that it's like, I don't like using the word privilege because it's overused and it's used in sort of weird ways to shut down conversation and to silence people and things like that. But I think it's like too much privilege. Like you don't have enough real problems that you're worrying about people's gender identities. Like it's so stupid. It's not real life. It's just invented ideology, like academic ideology. I think that it's like, and I think that it's indulging in, again, fetishes. Like a lot of these, they call themselves trans widows. So women who have had husbands that have decided to transition while they're married. And I've talked to some of these women and their stories are really heartbreaking. And in those cases, their stories are often like these guys start acting really like teenagery and like get super narcissistic and like all of a sudden, they get really superficial. They're into clothes. They want all the attention. But
Kardashians?
Often,
Did you just say Kardashians? What did you say?
No, want all the attention.
Interesting, because
I was like,
That's Caitlyn Jenner.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. My theory about Caitlyn Jenner is like all these chicks are getting all this attention, like, and Caitlyn Jenner, like, I don't know if did you watch the Kardashians?
A little bit. It was amazing how they would mock him
when he would always just be like alone in a room upstairs watching TV. And they would all be like doing their thing and having fun without him.
Well, ultimately, in the end, it seems like he's happier this way.
He's funny
she's
because
happier. She's happier this way.
I'll say he, you say she.
Okay. She's she seems happier, and she is getting a lot of attention. I mean, you want to talk about a titanic shift in attention. I mean, it's a monstrous difference between like pre-transition and now. There's a giant difference. Like all of a sudden, like a center figure in culture.
I mean, and he is also one of those people who, like, he's talked about like trying on his like daughter's clothing. Like, he's an autogynephile also, which is fine. I mean, do whatever. But like, but he is funny because he's like anti-woke.
Yeah.
And he's kind of critical of trans activism.
Well, definitely
Like, I
critical of transgender athletes in sports and wants to protect children.
Yeah.
It's similar to what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't literally think he's a female. This is how he wants to live his life, and he feels better that way, and fine.
Yeah.
But like he started off trying on women's clothing and being turned on by it, and then would like wear pantyhose under his pants, and
Shh! Don't tell anybody. I'm being naughty.
Exactly.
Here's the thing about wearing pantyhose under your pants. Who the fuck wants to wear pantyhose?
Pantyhose are disgusting.
Right.
Women
Imagine-
don't wear pantyhose. I know.
That's
That
like the
drove me
best
crazy too
argument
when I
for a
read that. I
fetish.
was like, nobody wears pantyhose. Like, kill me to make me wear, like, I don't, like, gross.
Yeah. You don't wear pantyhose unless you're acting out some sort of a weird thing with your significant other
Your
where you're pretending to
idea
be a
of a-
secretary. You're role playing.
Right.
Can I
That
get you
situation.
something, sir?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never done that before.
No,
So.
you never role played.
Oh God,
But you have
I
karaoke.
would like laugh.
Yeah,
if
that's
I did
part
that.
of the fun.
I can't take myself seriously in that kind of scenario. I'd be like, I feel stupid. I mean, karaoke. Yeah, I'm
But
just
the
like want to
pantyhose
sing
thing
Beatles.
that
songs.
is a sign of wanting to be naughty, right? If you're
Yeah.
wearing pantyhose. But isn't it also a sign
It's
of
like the guys who I worked at like a video store in the aughts or whatever, and this guy would come in sometimes at night with a leather motorcycle jacket on, and then like flash, he was wearing lingerie underneath.
Whoa.
It's exhibitionism, fetishism,
Hmm.
maybe autogynephilia.
But isn't it also like they connect pantyhose with being a woman, and if you wish you were a woman, maybe that's something you would be attracted to wearing. Like
Yeah, they have all these weird
do you know
stereotypes. about
Kristen
women.
Beck?
This sounds
Used to be a
familiar.
Navy SEAL, transitioned.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. And when Kristen was on the podcast, she actually talked about what that was like when she was first transitioning, and she showed up at work with like big nails on and wearing a dress, and everybody was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And
Like out of the blue.
Yep, out of the blue, she just decided to go for it, and then said, "Look, I'm the same person," and talks in the same voice. It's really wild, right? But then it's settled down, and now is basically dresses. I don't want to say like asexual, but
Like
like
a
a
normal
flannel shirt, which like
person.
a lot of women will wear flannel shirts, jeans. A lot of women wear jeans. Wasn't anything like definitely masculine or feminine about the way.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these men who transition to become women have these weird, super old-fashioned stereotypes about what a woman is and what women dress like. Like, I, in Vancouver, mostly wore giant men's flannel shirts and, like, big men's boots and, like, jeans, or, like, I wear, like, dirty Converse and tube socks almost every day.
Right, so you could be transitioning.
Yeah, maybe I'm a boy. If this was around when I was a kid, like maybe I would have thought I was a boy because I was like a tomboy. Like I hated pink. I didn't want to wear dresses. I didn't want to do girl things. I wanted to play with He-Man. I like cut my hair short. I wanted to hang out with the boys.
Yeah, that's a problem that people are worried about with children, that children are so malleable, and some people they don't think you should be worried about it at all. And they think, you should allow people to discuss anything and everything with your child when it comes to gender, when it comes to sexual identity, all those things. Say whatever you want. Sexual orientation. Talk about it with the kids. Talk about it with the kids. And other people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're supposed to be teaching history. And it is a weird thing because children are so malleable.
Well, and also, why do teachers feel like they're the ones or feel entitled to, they're the ones who should be educating other people's children about their politics or their ideologies? This is not your job.
It's complex. And it's also just as complex if my kid was going to school and there was a hardcore right-wing teacher that was telling them that all gays are evil. I would not want that in my child's head either. Or
somebody was teaching them about the Virgin Mary, Immaculate Conception. Is that okay? Because essentially you're teaching kids your religion. As far as I'm concerned, gender identity is a version of religion. It's just an idea. It's all faith-based. There's no material reality. There's no scientific basis for the idea that a man like you says, I'm a woman. Oh, you're a woman. What does that mean? It means nothing. It's all faith. It's well, I believe him. Okay, so it's faith-based. This is a religion.
And you have to believe him. It can never be someone's having a mental issue.
Yeah, maybe
and
this
gender
person's
dysphoria
struggling.
is even offensive to some people. They don't even like the term gender dysphoria. But that was a legitimate psychological term that they used to classify people that were having this issue.
Right. I mean, now to be trans, you don't have to have so-called gender dysphoria. I sort of think that term's imperfect myself because I sort of feel like it could be argued that everyone has some form of gender dysphoria because, I don't identify wholly with femininity. There's parts of me that are feminine. There's some, girl things that I like. And there's lots of aspects of my personality that I think are kind of masculine.
Like what?
I'm not nurturing at all. I don't like babies. I've never, I'm not, I don't, down with babies. I've never wanted to have kids. I've never desired it. I don't really some kids are cool. I don't mean kids have personalities. I like some kids, other ones, but I'm not, I don't look at a baby and I'm
Got it.
I would rather look at a dog. I love dogs. I love dogs. I think I'm kind of aggressive. I'm kind of domineering.
Really?
I'm very rational. That's a stereotypically I'm joking. I'm not always very rational. I mean, I'm a Libra, so that was a joke. I think I don't take care of my boyfriends in any way at all. They take maybe emotionally or I'm affectionate and I'm loving, but I don't cook and clean. My boyfriends tend to take care of me more than the other way around.
Are you a boss bitch?
I'm not very easy.
Isn't that a good thing though? Being a boss bitch is a good thing.
Lord,
That's what the rappers.
I feel I'm not the kind of chick who's really easygoing in a relationship.
You're a lot of work?
I'm pretty difficult.
Really? And you seem to celebrate that.
Well, I can't help it. It's just, I don't think it's always a good thing. It's I want to talk everything through. I want everything to be out in the open. If I'm upset about something, I can't not say it. You've probably noticed I'm not very good at not saying what I think. And in a relationship that can be challenging.
Right.
I feel like a lot of people, I think it's a good thing. I think you should be open and talk about things in a relationship. But I feel like people who are able to maintain really long-term relationships and marriages, often, not always, of course, are the kinds of people who don't say everything they think and don't feel like they need to be I didn't like that. What's going on? I want to talk about this. They're sort of let things lie people.
Right.
And I'm not a let things lie person.
Got it. So that's good if you want to be a social commentator because you're not going to bite your tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense because a lot of people don't want to experience the backlash that you've experienced for expressing your opinions on things.
Yep. Yeah, most people don't. I mean, what's interesting about people go after you a lot. People go after people like me. People go after people who have platforms and share their opinions. and I don't think that I don't know if a lot of people understand that it's like, I think it takes a certain personality to do this. Like, you have to be able to take a lot of flack, and I think that most people don't do that. And you have to be the kind of person who really, it's very, very, very important to say what you think and to like speak openly and to tell the truth. And I think what I've learned in the past few years and in doing this work is that's not what most people feel. Like, a lot of people are content not saying what they think and not being authentic and not being honest. Like, that's not a need for them. And for me, it's a need. Like, I don't feel like I could function if I wasn't able to like fully be myself.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, people have very specific personality traits that make them more effective at different jobs. And for what you do, it's a perfect personality for that job. But I know what you're saying, in terms of you're not necessarily like all the way feminine, but that's not gender dysphoria. This is such a different thing than someone who really does think they're a man who happens to have a vagina.
I totally agree with you. Like, I've never been confused about whether I'm a woman or not. My argument is that the term, because people mess up gender and sex all the time. Like, sex, when I'm talking about sex, I'm just talking about biology. Whether you have a male or a female body. To me, when I'm talking about gender, I'm talking about like sex stereotypes, so masculinity and femininity and those stereotypes that I was talking about before. Like, women are supposedly like nurturing and delicate and emotional and irrational, and men are, and some of these are true because of evolution, like to a certain extent, there's patterns, but people are not black and white. Men are domineering, violent, rational, aggressive, what else is there? They like to jerk off during Zoom meetings.
Have any women been caught masturbating during
I do
Zoom
not
meetings?
think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's what's wild, right?
Why are men more perverted than women?
Testosterone, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, for sure. I think. I don't know. I've never been a woman. Not yet.
It has to be.
Not yet, at least.
So, you never know.
Never know.
It could happen.
But I think it's testosterone. I think it makes, like, if you think about it, it's connected to aggression and sexuality, right? So there's not much in a woman that's connected to being horny, but also to being aggressive. Testosterone is really the only thing that does both of those things.
So do you think that it's like men have like more of an uncontrollable sexual urge?
I would have no idea.
Okay.
I'd have to guess. It's clearly a spectrum, because there's men that aren't interested in sex at all, and there's men that are horny all the time, and it's the same with women.
That's true. Yeah, I know. I actually get really mad when people talk about like men have a high sexual libido and women have a low sexual libido, and then that plays into this like kind of gatekeeping role that women are supposed to play. Like, women have sexual power because they can choose not to have sex with a man, and it's like women like to have sex too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to choose to not have sex with a man. I want to have sex with a man. Like, I'm a heterosexual woman. I also desire sex.
Right.
Like,
It's
I don't
not
want to be
like
in this
it's
role
a
where I'm
one-way-
saying no to something
Yeah.
that I actually want to do.
Yeah, but it's not like it's a one-way street.
And and I have friends who've had boyfriends who like didn't feel like having sex almost ever.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah.
It happens. It's like with everything. There's a lot of variables, and whenever you generalize like that, men want this and women want that. Like, what fucking men? What women?
Well, and it's
You
like,
know?
do you talk to people in real life? Because I talk to a lot of people in real life, and people are diverse. They really are.
They really are, and that's the problem with things like the left and the right. Is that when you get into an ideology and you're in a tribe, I'm in the tribe of the left, and so I have to subscribe to all the same things that these people subscribe to. I have to take on all of their notions that I think are ridiculous. I have to say it without any questioning. I have to repeat the mantra.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
And you have to use the exact right language, and the language changes all the time.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
But so the gender thing, I feel like I was trying to finish a thought. Like, so when I'm talking about gender, I'm talking about those stereotypes about men and women.
Right.
That are like really just personality traits often. Some women are more aggressive and less nurturing. Some women are super nurturing and, delicate and emotional or whatever. But so the term gender dysphoria, I think, bothers me just because of that, because it sounds to me then like you're just identifying with these gender stereotypes, which should be fine. Like you should be able to identify with whatever personality traits you identify with. You should be able to like whatever clothes you like. Like if you're a man and you want to wear a dress and you don't feel very masculine, or you don't have a high sex drive, or you don't want to like fight, that's fine. Like be whoever you want to be. I agree with, I think gender dysphoria refers to something different, which is a very, very strong, overwhelming desire to actually be the opposite sex, or to get rid of your sexed body parts.
What do you think, though, has caused this massive uptick in the public's understanding and discussion of it? Like, when did this become something that's on the front line?
I mean, it's so weird because all of the gender identity legislation was sort of presented and passed around the same time. Like it seemed like everything happened simultaneously at once in a lot of countries, like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, the US. And I don't know exactly how that went down, but I think those activists, like the trans activists, were very well organized. I think that part of it, other people have theorized around this, so these are not my ideas coming out of nowhere. But, once gay marriage was won, there wasn't much for these LGBT organizations to do and fight for anymore. So there's no reason for them to get funding. So they latched onto the trans rights thing so that they could continue to exist. People could keep their jobs, so they could continue to get funding. Because I don't know, where do you go with the gay rights fight now in Canada and America? Like, there's not that much to fight for anymore. That's sort of been won.
Right. Marriage is legal. Discrimination is illegal.
Yeah, you can't fire somebody from their job for being gay. And
public acceptance is much higher. I have a friend who's gay who thinks that a lot of the transgender movement is homophobic.
It is homophobic.
But it's weird. Like, in what way? It's like, well, if you don't believe in males and females, you don't believe there's a distinction. He was like, then what about gay men who are absolutely attracted to men? Like, are they what? And then if you're telling a lot of them that they're really that these men are actually really females and they should just transition, he's like, I think that there's a homophobia attached to that. And I'm like, okay, why do you think it is?
I mean, I absolutely agree with that, because how can you be same-sex attracted if there's no sex? Like, gay people aren't attracted to gender, they're attracted to sex. Like, males who are gay are attracted to men with male bodies. They're not attracted to women who are dressing like men or acting like men. And same, like, lesbians have made this argument for a long time too, that trans activism, gender identity ideology is homophobic. They're like, no, I'm attracted to women. I love women. I want to have sex with women. I don't want to have sex with a man who claims to be a woman or dresses like a woman. And, lesbians have been super bullied in their own communities over this, and over being critical of, like, trans women being welcomed into the lesbian community or being pressured to date trans women. And, Abigail Schreier does a bunch of research on, young girls are transitioning at really high rates now. It used to be that more boys were transitioning. Now it's that more girls are transitioning, and often those girls are lesbians.
Well, I think...
Like, it's not cool to be a lesbian anymore. It's cool to be queer. It's cool to be non-binary. It's cool to be a trans boy.
I think what Abigail's talking about, she's talking about that they happen also in clusters. Mm-hmm. And she thinks that there's some peer pressure involved, and there's I think she calls it a social contagion. Yeah, that's right. That you get praise for wanting to transition or for transitioning. The non-binary thing's the weirdest one, because you could just jump on board.
It's so stupid.
You could just say, I'm non-binary.
Well, anybody's non-binary.
We know this guy
right?
who's non-binary, and he fucks all these girls. It's hilarious.
You're like, so you're a heterosexual man then, huh?
He's a hustler. Hustler, hustler. He found the thing. Like, that's how you get in and bang woke chicks.
Ew, I would never want to fuck a non-binary man.
I mean, maybe he's really non-binary. I don't know.
There's no such
maybe that's
thing
what he
as
feels.
non-binary. That's
how do you
not
know?
a real concept. What does that mean?
He's not a man. He's not a woman. Why don't you let
That's
it go?
impossible. Everybody is a man or a woman.
Listen, when he fucks women, he's not doing it as a man. He's doing it as
That
a
is
they.
a gender-neutral penis.
He's doing it as a they, and you have some fucking respect.
That is gender-neutral sperm.
It is a wild thing, right? That is also, like, people will get as mad at you as if you fucking hit a baby with a car. Like,
People get real emotional about it, but I mean, I think I don't know why people get so emotional about this trans woman or women thing. Like, I don't know why you as a random woman would be like, because women get mad about it, you know, like women have gotten mad at me. Lots of women have gotten mad and been like, trans women are women. You should accept their identity. And I'm like, first of all, this is stupid and doesn't make any sense. But why do you care so much? Like, who are you protecting? What is your investment in this issue? And I would tend to think that it's about presenting yourself as and thinking of yourself as a good person. You're very invested in, I'm a good person, I'm a progressive person, I'm accepting, I'm inclusive,
Yes.
I support diversity, equality, all those words, yada, yada, yada. But some of them really do seem like, some of it I think is phony, but some of these people do seem to really get enraged. Like, enraged at me if I don't want to use correct pronouns. And it's like, why? Like, why are you so offended by this?
But there's also the fear of being ostracized from the group. If you don't do that, if you don't go along, if you decided that you're a progressive person, you don't go along with all these things, you can get ostracized to the group or from the group.
Totally. I mean,
And it's scary out there on your own, because what else are you going to do? You're going to be a Trump supporter? Because like we've polarized the
God forbid.
That's what we've polarized the country to, where you are either a progressive or you're a Democrat who tolerates progressives, or you're a person who doesn't like the Republicans. You keep going further and further left. You're like, never Trump, you know? And then a lot of those people, they get lumped into this thing, and you think of them only as the most radical of the people in the group that are the loudest, which is the hardcore left-wing people, the Antifa type people. Whereas on the right, like, if you go right, what's the worst thing? Would they go to the Proud Boys or some, white supremacist organization? That's what people think of. The January 6 people, that's what people think of. So you're either with the January 6 people or you're with Antifa.
Right.
Like, it literally, that's what it is on both sides. When you get to the furthest edges, it's equally crazy. And it's equally crazy in these predictable, adoptable patterns that these people have to subscribe to if they want to be a part of the ideology, whether it's the right ideology or the left ideology. Either you want to throw Molotov cocktails at the State House and call everybody a fascist, or you want to take zip ties to the fucking Capitol building and look for a senator to tie up.
Well,
It's the same fucking person. They just found different ways to port that crazy out into the universe.
Totally. And I mean, and the binary thinking is, I mean, I talked about this a bit earlier, but this is what people are doing to me constantly now that I've been talking about leaving the left or not wanting to identify as left wing. Like, I just want to be an independent.
Just
I'm
a
not
person.
identifying anywhere. And
Yeah.
I don't plan on, I don't want to categorize myself or label myself in any way. I want
So you're
freedom.
far right. How long have you been far right, Meghan?
Like, you're sounding like a Trumpist.
Well,
Like,
there's certain shows out there that will just immediately call you far right if you don't agree with the orthodoxy.
yeah. And that's what people have been doing to me. And it drives me crazy. I need to stop getting upset about this, but I can't. Like, I always get very, very upset about being misunderstood. Yes. And I know, I mean, you can't control that. People are going to misrepresent you. They're going to misunderstand you, especially if you're like a public
You're
figure.
just a soul whose intentions are good.
Thank you, exactly.
Oh, Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but that's part of your gift, is that you have the courage to talk about things that other people find uncomfortable and say them from an honest perspective. Like, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I don't like. This is what I think. And then also back it up with, like, other people are seeing it too. And this is not like, this is something that the warning bells were rang, you know?
Yeah.
It's the distinction between males and females is very weird when it plays out in sports and in games and stuff like that. I'm always fascinated by that because, like, there's clearly, like, great women athletes, and like you've got your stories like Jermaine Durand to be knocking out that guy. But where it gets weird is other games that don't involve physical strength. Like one of them is pool. Like
That's interesting, actually, because men are more inclined toward, like, way more men play pool than women.
Yeah.
Are men actually better at pool than women?
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot better.
I mean, it seems I'm really bad at pool.
No,
I'm quite good at foosball, though.
Okay. Well, they're very different things. When we talk about professional billiards,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's not as far apart as like the outlier female kickboxer knocking out the male kickboxer. It's not that far apart. But no women win competitions. Like if they want to enter into an open, like so like say they have women's professional tournaments where women compete against women, and they have open. Everything else is open. So like if there's a U.S. Open, women compete in the U.S. Open, the World Championships. Women can compete against the men. They can compete, but they never win. There's women out there that are very good, and they're capable of winning a match. Like the way a pool game is played, like say, depending on what tournament it is, it could be, say, a race to 10. So if we're playing 9-ball, if you pocket the 9 10 times and I pocket it 7 times, you win because you made it to 10 quicker. You won 10 games faster.
Okay.
So a woman can win in a race to 10, but they never win the whole tournament. A man always winds up beating them, which is odd. Because it's not a physical strength thing. It's not, there's nothing.
Yeah, why would that be? Because that, I feel like, is wholly skill and precision.
There's women that are very, 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 very good, but they're not as good as the world champion men.
I wonder why that is. There must be some science behind that.
I think they've tried to narrow it down to an understanding of 3D space that's different for males than it is for women. Maybe that has something to do with testosterone. There's quite a few women that are really good that are lesbians, which is interesting.
Huh.
I don't know what it is, but it's one of those things. It's like, what if someone like identified as a woman, they were an elite professional pool player, and they just started cleaning up in the women's division? You wouldn't really have a good argument that they have an advantage because it's not a strength advantage. It's not a speed advantage. So what is the advantage?
Well, maybe there is one. I mean, I don't know what it is, but there's some sexed advantage.
The only advantage that you would ever have in strength is in the break shot.
Right. But that's not going to win you.
It's not that big of a deal. A lot of people kind of soft break today. They don't break that hard. They want to like make the one ball on the side or make the corner ball, and sometimes it's actually better to not hit it too hard. So, but that would be the only thing that would involve physical strength.
I mean, it seems to me that like there's only a few competitions where men and women can compete against one another sort of on an equal playing field, and one of those I'm told is like shooting, like rifle.
That makes sense, yeah, because
right?
you're basically just aiming and breath control. I would think if the rifle was heavy, that would be an issue, but pistols, and pistols.
I mean, it doesn't seem. I don't know. Like, like if men started identifying as women to compete in figure skating, would that like screw over women in figure skating?
That's a good question. More strength in the legs.
But they're not.
More
But are they
explosivity.
judged by how high they jump? They're just judged on doing the things perfectly.
Right, but doesn't the difficulty factor in?
Maybe.
I think it does. Like if they have more leg strength, I would believe they could leap higher and spin more and.
For sure. I mean, that's sort of like the thing with skateboarding too, eh?
Right.
Like it's like they can jump higher and farther, and like they can move faster.
Right. And what specifically do you have to prove if you want to compete as a woman? Do they test you? Do they make sure that you aren't taking testosterone? Do they test you to make sure that you're taking estrogen? Do they check your testosterone levels?
Not in skateboarding.
Well, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Because if it is a physical thing, which it clearly is, like the best skateboarders are very good athletes.
Yeah.
You know, what they do is incredible. It's hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
So if that's the case, then you would think that you would want to make sure that someone isn't taking performance-enhancing drugs.
I mean, maybe they will at some point. Or maybe if we were talking about at the Olympic level, I don't think that it's come up in skateboarding at the Olympic level. I mean, that's relatively new that they've included.
When did skateboarding get into the Olympics?
I think maybe just like the last Olympics. Like
Okay.
I'm not an
So
expert,
they definitely
but it was
test them
recent.
there. They definitely test
Yeah,
them there.
but in regular competition, like it's probably not been that big of an issue so far for them to really have to deal with it. Like Taylor is probably the first person who's ever spoken out about this in skateboarding. Like it's been talked about in other sports, track, swimming, MMA, like weightlifting,
Yeah.
and those ones are easier because they're so obvious. I mean, people are obviously still going along with it anyway, but it's very obvious. Like when you look at, there's like a photo of Leah Thomas at the swim meet, and they're all diving, and he's like 2 feet higher than all the rest of the chicks,
It's pretty
and
crazy.
immediately farther along. And he's also just obviously bigger.
Way
he's
bigger.
a tall, big dude.
Who was a really good swimmer as a man, which is nuts.
Yeah, and he transitioned like the rule.
year ago.
Yeah, exactly. He started doing hormone replacement therapy a year
Now,
ago.
someone told me that Leah is still intact
Probably.
and dates girls.
Probably. I don't know, but most
that true?
most guys who identify as trans women are still intact and date girls. Like that's a horrible surgery to get your dick cut off and inverted into like a neo vagina that's not supposed to be
Did you
there.
call it a
So
neo-vagina?
that's what they call it, a neo vagina.
what they call it?
Well, that's probably not what trans activists call that, but I think like if you're gonna like read a research paper or something like that, that's what they would call it, or surgeons call it a neo vagina. But like it's a hole that wants to keep closing up because it's not supposed to be there. Like it's not. It's hard to maintain. It's gross for reasons that I'll let people imagine. Like it doesn't function like a vagina. Vaginas are supposed to be there. They operate in a specific way that's
They auto-lube.
conducive to sexual intercourse. They are self-cleaning, which is not
That's
the
a big
case
one.
for a surgical hole that's been an inverted penis. Like the men will like grow hair on the inside. Do you know what I mean?
Oh boy.
Because it's from like their ball sack. It's that skin, so
Oh Jesus.
and it smells bad. Anyway, and also they're really complicated surgery, and there can be complications really easily, and there's more than once. You have to have a bunch of surgeries to get all this done.
Yeah.
And you might end
You
up
have to have more than one.
not being able to have sexual pleasure. The other way around is really horrific, like women who are transitioning to men and want like a fake penis attached. They like take the skin off of your arm,
Yeah, I've seen that.
and that's a bunch of surgeries.
And you don't get a functional penis, do you?
Not really. And sometimes it doesn't take, right? Sometimes your body rejects it and you have to try again a number of times. It's really gross. And then, it's like, then you can't come. Like, what is even the point? What is the point of having a penis if you can't, like, have sexual pleasure and you can't have an orgasm? What does the penis do then?
I don't know, but there was a cover of a magazine that showed this person who had just transitioned and had a big scar on their leg.
Yeah.
And had a giant old hog.
Yeah, I read that. What
Wanted a
was
big
her
one.
name? She was a journalist. Oh God, I can't remember her name. I wrote something about that. She was a journalist, and she'd reported in like war-torn countries and had been traumatized by witnessing some pretty horrible sexual assault. And she had a history of sexual abuse, like she'd been molested as a kid. I think that kind of stuff factors into transition too, especially for women. It's like naturally you want to get rid of your sexualized body if you in your brain are like, well, these men did these things to me when I started developing.
Right.
You want to go back to not being a sexual looking woman. But she decided to be a man, and they did a cover story, and she had this giant, like a giant hole in her thigh kind of thing from where they'd taken the skin and turned it into her fake penis. It's a horrible thing to go through, and I think that these people are often trying to deal with mental problems in physical or superficial ways, and now we live in a culture where a therapist isn't allowed to challenge you. Like if you go to a therapist and you're a young woman and you say, I'm a boy, you have to take an affirmative approach and say, okay, yeah, you're a boy, go get some hormones. Like, we can give you a mastectomy and a hysterectomy. So they're not being questioned about, like, anything else that it might be connected to, past trauma.
Are you sure that
like,
all therapists behave the same way?
well, I
on this?
think therapists are scared. So probably
Generally.
not all therapists, but these therapists don't want to be accused of transphobia and then lose their careers. So I think that most therapists are going along because they could get in a lot of trouble if they don't.
It's because it's so complex because you want people to do what makes them happy. I want people to have the choice, and I don't know how you feel. Like, I don't know how someone feels. When someone says to me that I've always known that I was a woman, I don't have any idea how they feel. So I have
Neither
to
do
take
I.
them at their word.
I mean, what does it mean to feel like a woman? I have no idea what it means like to feel. I don't feel like a woman. I just feel like whatever, like me.
Right, but you are a woman.
Yeah.
So you are a woman and you feel like you. And it feels like it syncs up. But
Yeah.
imagine if you were a man and you felt like you should feel like you. Felt like you should look like you should be like you like the things that a girl likes, but you feel like somehow or another nature's thrown you a curveball and you have a male body, but you have a female mind.
Really weird. No, I can't imagine that.
It's got to be real. I think we're dealing with many things. I think we're dealing with legitimate people that are trans people, where I don't want to delegitimize anybody, but when I say by the word legitimate, I mean there's an issue where they genuinely, from the moment they were born, have felt like a girl, and they're confused, and they don't understand why. And everything else is great, and if they transition, they'll be happier. I think those people exist. But I also think all the other things that you said are true, too. The statistics about people who felt like they were trans when they were young and then eventually became gay men, those are very high, right?
And lesbians. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like lesbians, like there's a lot of girls, and I've interviewed these girls.
Who think they were boys and turn out to be
who,
lesbians.
when they're teenagers, like older teenagers usually are like, I don't feel like I fit in. I feel like I'm not a girl. Like, I like other girls and I don't want to wear girly clothes. And I don't like, I must be a boy. And then they transition, and a couple years down the line, they're like, I'm not a boy, I'm a lesbian.
So there's all these things. So how do you know what's what? How do you know who's getting influenced by culture and society? And one of the things about Kristen Beck is that she grew up in a fucking military town, like in a small town in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and did not have any transgender ideology. So all of the ideas that was pushed on her or that she was indoctrinated, that's all. It doesn't work with her. Mm-hmm. So for sure, there are people out there that are experiencing the same thing that Kristen Beck experienced, the same thing other people experience too, where they feel like they're in the wrong body. And then also for sure, there's people like Abigail Schreier is talking about that may be being influenced by the trendiness of it, by the social contagion aspect of it. Like, we have to be able to look at all these possibilities and to say that it's binary. Either you are a woman or you're a man, you recognize yourself as a woman or a man, or that's it. Like, and you are a woman. You've always been a woman. Okay, I guess I'm a woman. Like, to make it like that, and to avoid all nuance, and to avoid all these other possibilities, to avoid this term, gender dysphoria, to avoid all of this information about, whether or not this is even effective or if it makes people happy. Like, what is going on? You can't, as soon as you can't discuss an issue without being fearful of being attacked by people that don't agree with you, it becomes very problematic because people get scared. They become cowards. And you get people on one side that will virtue signal and they'll claim to fight against you. That she's a piece of shit. I fucking hate her. And
we got to take her down.
Yeah, we got to take her down. And they'll do it to let the tribe know that they're on the right side. And you've also hack political commentators that'll do that. And they're just doing it because they're just dumb and sloppy. And that's how they behave. And they'll find something that they can rally against. And it's good for clicks,
Yeah, I mean, they need a headline.
Yeah, they need something to fight against because they don't really have interesting, nuanced opinions. They have, it's
They have hot
bullshit
takes.
culture. This hot take culture is it's a wild culture because there's a whole industry of hot take assholes out there, and all they do is like live for hot takes. And what they don't understand is people lose all faith in your actual opinions on things when you're just doing these hot takes. Because now I don't know you. I don't know you. I know what you're doing. I know the titles of these outrageous clips. I know you screaming at the camera. I know all this stuff that people do.
Or crying on the camera
Crying on
about
the
all
camera,
the harassment that you got as a female journalist online before you went and tried to ruin somebody else's life.
Yeah, there's a lot of those too. But I don't know them because they're not honest. And that's why they don't resonate. That's why it doesn't work well.
I mean, that's got to like harm those people who are doing it too, because imagine if you were under that kind of pressure to continue, like, to come up with hot takes on like a variety of subjects every single day. Like, I don't write about something unless like I've thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna like just be like, oh, what's your opinion on this? Like I'll have some answers for some questions if it's stuff that I've thought about. Like, I think this, I think that. But like, if it's something I don't know, I'm just gonna be like, I don't know anything about this. I don't have an opinion.
Writing is very different than hot takes because people have I have hot takes on things, on stuff.
What do you think about fat
my
phobia?
real thing, I think it's bullshit. Listen, I'm a healthy person.
Yeah.
Like by effort, I work out very hard at it. I've been doing it my whole life. The idea that you have the idea that a person can decide to eat unhealthy, to let their body balloon to morbid obesity, and you don't discuss that. You don't ever bring that up. You don't tell them that. You don't say it's unhealthy.
The doctor's not allowed to tell you that.
There's even doctors that will lie and cite nonsense and pretend that it's healthy to be fat and there's nothing wrong with it, and actually dieting is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that are linked to obesity, so many diseases, so many problems. And
People will say, oh, well, skinny people can be unhealthy too.
it's true.
Yep.
It's totally true.
Yep.
They're right, but not to the same numbers. They're not even close. Not even unless you're talking about anorexics. If you talk about people that are of optimum weight, the amount of, depending upon their diet, of course. Someone could have a terrible diet and you get a bunch of diseases that are connected to that. But obesity is a rough one. That's one of the things we learned during COVID. There was one point in time where 78% of the people who were in the ICU were obese.
It makes me so angry. It makes me so angry that they created all this hysteria around COVID and pretended that anybody could just die of COVID in a second when we knew full well that it was people who were, it was old people and like fat people, like really unhealthy people. And it's like, shut down the gyms because like people who are unhealthy and fat are dying of this disease. So shut down healthy people's lives and force them to be unhealthy. That's the solution.
Well, I think it was an interesting case because it clearly was more dangerous than anything we've ever experienced before in terms of infectious disease. It's clearly more dangerous than the flu, clearly more dangerous than a lot of things. But you weren't allowed to look at it like you look at those other things.
But everybody
like
wasn't
people
at
die from the
equal
flu.
risk.
No, they were not. But a lot of people who you didn't think were at risk got fucked up by it too, which was really interesting because I don't think it's even across the board. Look, I think there's a high probability that fucking thing came from a lab.
Yeah.
And it behaves like something that came from a lab. And that's why it's wild. It's wild because there's people that have, no problem with the flu, and they got fucking wrecked by COVID, like real bad. Lungs scarred, decreased oxygen capacity, decreased cardiovascular output, all that stuff.
I don't know a single person who had like a horrible experience with COVID.
Oh, I do.
I tested positive and I had zero symptoms.
Well, let me tell you about Khamzat Chimaev, okay?
Okay.
Because Khamzat Chimaev is one of the best fighters in the UFC, one of the best up-and-coming contenders. He was hospitalized multiple times for COVID. He was spitting blood up in his toilet bowl and tried to retire, coughing blood up in the toilet.
Because of COVID?
Because of COVID. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and he's a fucking elite, top of the food chain assassin. But here's what happened. He didn't give himself the chance to recover. He got COVID, and he tried to train. And he was training while he had COVID, and he fucked himself up.
Yeah.
And he it got stronger. And then he was admitted to the ICU. He almost died. He was admitted to the hospital more than once, on multiple occasions. Because he's just fucking psycho, and he kept training, and he didn't give his body a chance to recover.
Yeah. I'm not saying I haven't heard these stories. I'm literally talking about people I know in real life. And everybody that I know in real life who got COVID, like, stayed home in bed until they felt better.
My friend Michael Yo got COVID, and he got COVID early on in the pandemic, and he was hospitalized for weeks, and he thought he was going to die, and it was real bad. But I don't know whether or not was healthy at the time. I know he was exhausted. He told me the whole story of how he flew to New York, did press, flew back, drove to Vegas with his family, and then drove back the next day and then tested positive for COVID and then was wrecked. But just doing that alone, that's 6 hours of driving after flying, hanging out with your wife's family, everybody getting together, probably having a couple cocktails, laughing, not getting enough sleep, jet lagged.
Well, that's how you get real
boom,
sick.
Exactly.
Like I got a cold that turned into bronchitis and then turned into frickin' pneumonia.
Right.
Because I had to travel.
Right.
Like, because I was like way overtired. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't get like the vitamins that I needed. I couldn't rest enough. I couldn't get the food that I needed. I had to go on all these planes. I had to work, and I just like, I couldn't heal, and so it turned into pneumonia.
Exactly, and that is something that happens to people with COVID. So that's what gets the really healthy people. So when they bring that up as an example, it's like the problem is if you are a person that has to fly and has to work late and has to do things where you're not getting enough sleep, then it's fucking dangerous. Because if you're taxed out and that hits you, when it got me, the first day I was like, whoa. I was like, this is fucking strong. I was like, this is interesting because it hits you so quick. I was like, from the moment I was on the plane, I was feeling funky. And then I just thought I was hungover. And then I got back to Texas, and that night I was sweating, and I was freezing. I sweat through 3 different pairs of sweatpants or a sweatshirt and a hood, and freezing, right? So I'd change, shivering, put a new one on, get back under the covers. I was sleeping by myself. I told my wife I was probably sick, and then I moved to the other side of the bed. I moved to her side, soaked that side too. But that's because of all those things that I said. I was drinking, I was flying, I was in Florida. We played pool till 3:30 in the morning, and I had like 5 margaritas. And then the next day did a show, and then flew back that night. So it was a lot of, environmental stress, alcohol, shows, this, that, the other thing. But I still got over it pretty quick.
But that's how illness works. Like that's how you get sick, and then you get too sick.
My whole family had it at one point in time, early in the pandemic, and I didn't get it, and I didn't do anything to avoid it. I didn't do anything. I was hugging my kids when I had it, and I felt weak a couple of days. I was like, whoa, I wonder if this is gonna get me. Like when I would go to work out, I knew something was going on. It did not feel normal. So I said, it was at my house. So I was like, and I had 5 days off. So I was like, we could figure this out. I'm like, let's just see what's going on here. And so I worked out, and when I worked out, I was like, something's wrong. This does not feel like me. I'm like, I'm just gonna just go light and break a sweat and don't be an asshole. And I did that 2 days in a row. And then by the 3rd day, I got into the gym. I'm like, I feel pretty fucking good. And then I worked out pretty hard. But I tested negative every day. I never tested positive. I tested myself every single day.
That's funny because the one time that I thought that I got it and I was like, this is weird. And like, I couldn't get out of bed. Like I was just exhausted. I was like sweating a lot too. And I had this weird dry cough that never turned into anything. It was just a consistently dry cough. But, and I was like, I probably have COVID. So I just stayed home. I had tried to go to the gym like very early on, and I was like so tired. I just was like,
Did you test for antibodies?
Do anything. You guys tested me for antibodies, and I didn't have them.
Many months out from your your being sick.
It was a long time after, I think.
Jamie's got superhuman antibodies. You should see his antibody level.
Amazing.
He pulls it out like a big dick.
What does it protect him from?
Well, he's just been exposed to a lot of dirty girls. Always around him.
So you can't get chlamydia anymore either, huh? That's how that works, right?
Is that how it works? You can only get it once.
If you get it enough times, then you're immune.
But Jamie got COVID in October of 2020. He got it early on. And then, like, recently, you had didn't you have a antibody test real recently that was fat?
Was it? I want to say maybe someone didn't have a strong line, so I was like, let me show you a strong line.
Yeah, that was, you know what it was? It was Protect Our Parks.
Okay.
It was when
like
Norman and Gillis had just gotten over COVID, and so that we wanted to see. And his fucking lines are fat, so he's got crazy antibodies.
I mean, you guys tested me here for antibodies, so that would have been like a year ago. I haven't tried since then.
They say you have T and B cell memory too, which is interesting. It's like even if your body doesn't have antibodies, it has memory, and it could develop those antibodies if you're coming in contact with it. Some of these guys that work here, they didn't catch COVID a second time, but they came in contact with it, and then they felt like weird, and then it showed up they had antibodies. So like when Mercy would test us, it would show that your levels indicate that something recently, your body tried to fight it off recently.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, like I feel like a lot of people treat COVID based on anecdotal evidence or what they read in the media. So I'm like,
It's hard not to though.
Well,
what
yeah.
else do you, if you don't read it in the media or you don't get it anecdotally, how are you what information are you getting other than that?
Well, but I mean, yeah.
For most people, unless you're reading scientific papers.
Well, and even scientific papers have conflicting information.
Right, depending upon who's running the study and what the parameters of the study were, and especially if they went into the study with a bias and they tried to accomplish a certain thing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I guess I'm just like, my experience is that I left Vancouver during COVID and I moved to Mexico and everything was fine there.
Well, I left LA and I came to Texas and everything was normal. People were normal here in May of 2020. It was wild. Like people walking around with no masks on, all friendly.
We were all packed into bars, spitting in each other's faces, sharing food, sharing drinks, sharing cigarettes. Like
the thing that did me in when I got sick, for sure, 100%, was that I was drinking and flying. I was drinking in Florida, stayed up really late, was exhausted, and then had to fly the next day. Did a show, had to fly that night. It was a lot.
I get sick a lot when I fly, just in general. Like I have to be real careful.
Yeah, I mean, it's
my health
not
when I
good
fly.
for your body to be that fucking high up in the air. And that air that you're breathing, I know it's recycled air, and I know it's supposed to be purified and everything like that.
And it always makes me exhausted and dehydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also probably getting cooked by radiation.
Is that what happens on the plane? They cook you with radiation?
I don't know if it's bad for you, but I do know that
I've never
you
even
get
thought about
exposed
this
to high
before.
levels of radiation when you fly. I want to say higher levels of radiation. I wonder, like, if stewardesses have issues, if flight attendants have issues with radiation.
I had no idea that you were being exposed to radiation. when
Yeah,
you
see,
fly.
let's Google it. Here it goes. We are exposed to low levels of radiation when we fly. You would be exposed to about 0.035 MSV, 3.5 MREM of cosmic radiation if you were to fly within the United States from the East Coast to the West Coast. This amount of radiation is less than the amount of radiation we receive from one chest X-ray.
So
how
it's
much
probably
less?
fine.
Yeah, but how much less?
I don't really know anything about radiation.
But the thing is, like, a chest X-ray, you have to wear a lead vest.
Oh, right. That's a good point.
Worried about cooking your fucking organs. Like, that's not a good, like, chest X-rays are fucking bad for you.
Okay.
I mean, there's a reason why they put that vest on you. Right? Don't they protect your junk? Do they protect your
well,
junk?
they do it when they give you x-rays at the dentist,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
They protect you. Or they protect, like, they put something
Meanwhile,
on
they
you
don't
here.
protect your fucking brain. They don't give you a lead helmet like Magneto.
That's weird, eh?
It's weird. The like that argument, I don't see. Air travel exposes you to radiation. How much risk? So does it show us there? Okay. It says your dose. That thing that you just had, that little circle right there. So it says your dose. I don't know. What the fuck
So I
it was,
clicked off it because it doesn't make.
I guess that red is the. What's the big one at the bottom there? Is that the X-ray? That upper left-hand corner? Sorry, the big red thing. If the upper left-hand corner of the screen.
Oh, yeah, that's why I just clicked. I couldn't
Yeah,
tell
that's what I'm saying.
those
What is
were.
the big red one at the bottom? What does that say?
It just doesn't make any sense. A single dose fatal. It's about radiation poisoning, I think.
Oh, okay. So where's the flight? Which one's a flight? Is it the little tiny
40,
one?
yeah.
Okay,
This
so
little tiny
40,
dot.
and then can you make that a little bigger? So abdominal. Okay, that's cool. Abdominal X-ray is 200. A flight is 40. A dental X-ray is only 5, but they still throw that lead vest on you. So think about that. Think about that shit.
Hip X-ray is a little bit more
I
though.
know this.
800 for hip X-ray.
Ooh, hip X-rays.
There's a chest CT scan, which
Whoa,
I guess that's a little bit more.
a CT scan.
Jeez.
Interesting.
It's 12,000.
Holy fuck.
Whatever units that is.
That's a lot. What's an MRI? Is that in there? Well, that's magnetic resonance imagery. I don't think that's radiation.
And then it says like 400,000 was a dose that would cause symptoms of radiation poisoning.
Yeah, but that like over how much time? Like, there's got to be a reason why they throw that fucking lead vest on.
Well, so yeah, this one is also saying a frequent flyer. So that's someone who's flying a lot. It's going to have almost.
See, there it is. Look at that. Frequent flyer from New York to Los Angeles has 480 as opposed to 200 from an abdomen X-ray.
But so what does that mean?
That's a lot of
What is
radiation.
that? What happens then if you're exposed
But
to
that's
that
over time.
much?
You can read minds.
Well, then
Imagine.
great.
In the comic
More
books, that's
chest
always what
X-rays.
happened. In the comic books, you got radiation, you became cool as fuck.
How much
Right?
do we get from the sun? Don't we get something? Not, I guess.
Yeah, you must get some solar radiation.
Just hanging out outside, don't you
Yeah.
get radiation?
Well, the thing is, like, everything has radiation. Like, rocks have radiation. Like, if you are exposed to rocks, like you touch a hot rock, that rock has radiation.
Okay.
But it's very, very little. Like, people are worried about your cell phone. The radiation from your cell phone. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Is it bad? I don't know. Some people think it is.
You're supposed to not put them on your genitals.
Yeah.
Your cell phone.
Elon doesn't think it's bad. So I'm like, oh, tell me what to do. Elon.
I'm not too worried about my cell phone.
But if you listened, like, by your ear on one side of your head and then developed a tumor.
Here's
on
a
that side.
little comparison chart that
Okay.
maybe helps. some of
Ultrasound
this.
or MRI. Radiation exposure equivalent to 0 days of natural radiation, 0 hours of flying. Lower back X-ray, radiation exposure is equivalent to 213 days of natural radiation or 182 hours of flying. Lower back CT scan is equivalent to 511 days of natural radiation or 462 hours of flying. So if you're a stewardess, you're getting cooked. Are you allowed to say stewardess anymore?
There must be studies.
Is it a stewardess?
I don't know. I say stewardess, but I think you're supposed. Well, I guess you're supposed to say
Like
flight
actress.
attendant.
Actresses are just actors. They're female actors.
I don't care about any of that stuff anymore.
No?
I think maybe I went through a phase of caring a little bit, but I don't care about calling people retards. I don't care about calling people like bitches or cunts or assholes or dickbags or motherfuckers or.
Keep going.
I mean, I have like a potty mouth, but I feel like it's not important.
You know
That's
what?
not the important thing.
You know what phrase went away? Comedian.
I don't even remember that being a thing.
Yeah, it was female
That's
comedian.
silly.
Well, comedian Miss Pat. Miss Pat was one of the funniest people alive. She has, like, comedian Miss Pat is her Instagram. That was like comedienne, I think. Is that it? How do you say it?
I've never
Yeah.
heard that.
You never heard comedian?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, there it is. Comedian.
A
Female
female
comedian.
comedian.
Which is weird. Weird. Because comics don't use it.
Yeah, I mean it is really unnecessary, I think, but also I don't care. Like I
Okay.
feel like people tried to make that like it's not an actor. Everyone's an actor. I'm like, who
Right.
cares? It's
Yeah.
a female actress or it's a female actor.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that's the important thing. I think that what's happening in real life is the important thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, for sure. I just think it's interesting, the phrases that just get adopted. And with comedy, it just got abandoned for whatever reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think, but it's obviously not true that's because like comedy can't be woke because how do you make jokes if everything's supposed to be woke? But obviously they've woked comedy, so or they've tried to in any case. I feel like
It's
it was
not
short-lived because I feel like the unwoking of comedy came around pretty fast. Like I feel like there was like a period of time when they were trying to like make woke comedy happen, and then people like Ricky Gervais and like Dave Chappelle were like, nah.
Well, it's also the problem. Well, first of all, Ricky Gervais's new shit is fucking hilarious.
Oh, it's so good.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's also when you're trying to be woke, you are saying, I adhere to the ideology. I will speak only the phrases that empower and enlighten. Like, that's not comedy.
No.
Comedy is talking shit. Comedy is you have a couple of drinks and you say something fucked up to your friend, you both laugh hysterically. Or you call each other up and you don't even mean what you're saying, but you're saying something to be funny. That's comedy. And when you want to pretend that that's a statement, you're going to lose me as an actual human. Like, I can't talk to you as a real individual anymore because I know you're playing a game. So I can't take what you're saying seriously any longer because now you're not really having a conversation with me. You're just trying to force me into your ideology for social brownie points. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's not authentic.
No.
It's phony.
It's horseshit.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm willing to have a reasonable conversation with anybody about any subject, but if you want to pretend that jokes aren't jokes, we can't talk. Like
There's a
you
lot
can't
of-
say that you can't joke about things. You can't say that Ricky Gervais stuff is offensive. It might have offended you. It didn't offend me.
It's so funny though.
It was hilarious.
I mean, I feel sort of like jokes and humor trump all. Like if it's funny, then I'm like, okay, but
it
it's funny.
works.
So
Yeah.
if it works, like I guess I think that there's some people who actually, I really don't like these people who actually don't have a sense of humor. Like they just don't they don't care. They don't think like humor is not important to them, and they kind of don't really get it. Like when
There's a lot of that. It's
like
also
people
a
are like,
loophole.
this is offensive. This is offensive. Sometimes it's,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's phony, but I think there genuinely are people who are like, well, I didn't get it, so it's not funny. It's like, no, you didn't get it because you have a bad sense of humor.
There's that, and there's also people that are authoritarians, and they don't like comedy because it's a loophole. 'Cause
Right.
if they want to tell you what to do, and you are joking around about something, they're like, no, you can't joke around about that, and they'll tell you this is off limits for comedy, and then they want to fucking protest, and
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's like they're just upset that in their mind, like there are things you just can't joke around about, and in their mind, it's whatever their ideology says.
Yeah. I mean, I get it's so controlling.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so weirded out by this culture where people think that they are entitled to control other people, what other people think, what other people say, what other people joke
Yeah.
about. And I don't understand the desire to do that either. It's like let people live.
Yeah.
Like, why are you so obsessed with what other people are doing? Is that like because you don't have anything interesting going on in your life, or you feel out of control in your own life? Like, I keep trying to like look at it through a psychological lens, I suppose, and I don't. I
Doesn't make sense.
no.
Yeah, but it's just a natural human trait, a natural human characteristic, whether it's through religion or through culture, to get people to adhere to the boundaries that you've set for your group. And if someone tries to stray outside those boundaries and joke about things or do something or say something or have, some sort of an opinion that's forbidden.
And you want to signal that you're part of the in group, which is
Yeah.
tribalism
Exactly.
also, right? So
Exactly.
you're like, I'm part of this group, so I believe this, so I won't tolerate this.
Yeah.
You're part of the out group.
Megan, I have to pee so bad.
I have to pee too.
Good.
I kept
Okay.
being like, should I interrupt? Because I really have to
Let's
pee.
wrap this up.
Okay.
Tell people, you said it before, but say it again, your Substack.
Oh, it's just Meghan Murphy, so Meghan.
There it is. The Same Drugs with Meghan Murphy.
Also, oh, sorry.
And, go ahead.
No, so is this going to come out tomorrow?
Yeah.
So tomorrow, people, if they still want to come, they can still buy tickets to this event. At
What day is the event?
June 10,
June 10.
Friday at 6 p.m.
And where's it at?
Austin Central Library. It's called Women Leaving the Left. So that's 710 West Cesar
Chavez. Yes. Yeah.
Eventbrite.
People know what it is. It's easy to find.
Go to my
So
Instagram.
the public library.
The link's
Okay.
there. Buy tickets online if you would like to come. Anyway, thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.
This was really
It's always
fun. It
great.
was so
Always
great to
talk
see
to
you
It was
again.
fun.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.